We're unmuted.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 2021 meeting of the Community Planning and Preservation Committee for the City of St. Petersburg. This commission reviews proposed changes to the comprehensive plan, land use and zoning, as well as historic preservation related proposals, and makes recommendations to the City Council. All individuals in any city facility are encouraged to follow the public safety protocols recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, including wearing a mask in common areas, maintaining 6 feet of distance, and other safety practices. Applicants may wait in conference room 100 and monitor the meeting until their case is ready to be heard. Our agenda today includes quasi-judicial and public hearing items. The quasi-judicial items on our agenda will require the following quasi-judicial process. Anyone speaking before the commission on a quasi-judicial item will be sworn in by the clerk prior to speaking. Staff, the applicant, and any registered opponent each have 10 minutes for their presentation. After the presentation, each member of the public who wishes to address the commission will have 3 minutes to speak. When you are called on to speak, please step up to the podium, state your name, address, and that you have been sworn in. We ask that you make your remarks brief and not repetitive of prior testimony. After the public hearing, staff, the applicant, and any registered opponent will each have 5 minutes for cross-examination of anyone who spoke during the item, and then 5 minutes each for rebuttal or closing comments. During cross-examine, all questions are to be directed to me as chair. I will then turn and redirect the questions to the appropriate person for response. At the conclusion of these steps, the commission will enter into executive session. Commissioners may ask questions at any time during the quasi-judicial process upon being recognized by the chair. And finally, all procedural questions are to be directed to me as chair. Welcome. That was a lot. All right, let's do a roll call, please.
Bell. Gertis.
Present.
Rogo.
Here.
Whiteman.
Here.
Winters.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Burke. Michaels.
Here.
Wanamaker. We have a quorum.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, let's all stand.
If I may?
Yes.
Speaking of a quorum, I just kind of want to let everybody know for our quasi-judicial hearings today that we will either have 5 or 6 voting members present for each item today, but it won't be 7. So regardless of the amount of commissioners, you still need 4 votes in the affirmative to get your application approved. So we extend an offer when we have fewer than 7 for an applicant to defer action to the next month in an attempt to get 7. It's applicant's choice.
Should we make that offer at the beginning of each agenda item, Mr. Dima? Or just in general?
I mean,
right
I
now?
probably have to.
Okay.
Just in case there's, somebody's en route or whatever.
I don't, you'll remind me, right?
I will. But I just know we're not going to have
That I have
7.
no doubt.
We're not going to have 7 at any point.
Okay, cool. So just at the beginning, we'll make sure to do that.
Sure thing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Dima. Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I think everybody received the minutes from May's meeting. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I'll move approval of the minutes from the May meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Winters.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving along. Look at that. Okay. So we'll move into any other announcements. Mr. Kilborn, Mr. Dima, anything like that at the beginning? All good?
I have nothing else.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll move into our first agenda item. Ms. Connell, please.
City file number 20902-00097. The request is a review of certificate of appropriateness for the alteration of the Alexander Hotel, a local historic landmark. The owner is Radhart and Anderson. The agents are Robert M. Henderson and Michael Satino. Commissioner Gertis, you are going to have to recuse due to proximity.
Okay, I will recuse. Ms. Winters, I think that makes you in charge.
Okay,
right.
got it, got it.
You have this? Okay, you got it.
Yeah, I do, thank you, thank you. So for city administration, we have Ms. Perkins.
Hi, good afternoon. Kelly Perkins, Historic Preservationist for the City of St. Pete. We are here for COA for roofing at the Alexander Hotel. The subject property is a local historic landmark and is individually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Here is a 1920s photograph that shows the building soon after it was built. It was built in 1919 as one of St. Petersburg's first modern hotels. It was built during one of the first building booms for the city. As you can see in this photograph, the building is classical in style, and it has a mansard roof that is on the front elevation and projects into an interior courtyard. As this photograph shows, it had a tile roof. Here's a 1931 postcard that again shows the tile roof in a red color. At some point during the building's history, prior to its listing as an individual landmark, roofing materials were changed, and recently the front mansard roof has a flat shingle, which staff believes to be asbestos shingles, and the interior courtyard was a tile roof. This shows a little bit more. The orange is the asbestos shingles, and the blue indicates the tile roof. This project has been dealing with the Urban Planning and Historic Preservation Division for several years. They have been, representatives of the property have been working with staff regarding re-roofing of the mansard roof. Prior staff did research and indicated that a French style of tile would be the most appropriate replacement, and stated that staff approval would only be given if the entirety of the mansard roof was approved. COA in 2018 was issued with that condition that includes the entire mansard roof, including the frontal pitch. That COA expired, and a new COA was submitted in 2020 with the same scope of work, and again, approval was granted to replace the entire mansard with the Ludovici French tiles. A building permit was subsequently issued for the re-roofing. When staff went to do a final inspection, I apologize, this building is very hard to photograph because of the trees, but staff observed that the front mansard roof was not replaced with the new Ludovici tile. And in the end, the applicant decided to move forward to leave the asbestos shingles on the front and only re-roof the interior courtyard. The design guidelines for historic properties in St. Petersburg does not recommend using multiple roofing materials on one roof, and staff has concerns about the precedent set for approving a roof with a mixture of materials, particularly since that was not the original design intent of the building. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of the request to leave the roof the mixture of roof cladding, and staff suggests that the following actions be taken prior to the approval of the historic preservation final inspection: that the front mansard of the south elevation of the building should have the same roof cladding as the rest of the mansard roof, which is the Ludovici brand French tile type 320163 color desert sand, as was conditioned under the previously approved COAs. That is the end of my presentation, and the owner is here to speak.
Great, thank you. So the owners, Rodert and Anderson, and the agents, Robert Henderson and Michael Citino. So you have 10 minutes to do a presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm George Rodert. I'm the owner, and I'll be speaking on this.
Okay.
I have been sworn in. So we've been through quite some turmoil in getting this processed. I hired a contractor who had extensive historic preservation experience, but he failed to get a certificate of appropriateness. We wound up hiring a second contractor. My intention was to, the roof had failed above the courtyard, the interior courtyard, and was watertight and sufficient along Central Avenue. So my intention had been to seek a permit to repair only the surface of the courtyard. I had specified that with both contractors, and unfortunately they've submitted a different application. I have always labored under the understanding that the original materials have historic significance. I dispute that they're asbestos shingles, but we managed to, as part of the intent of roofing only the mansard that's above the interior courtyard, we carefully selected tiles that were that matched the tiles that are along the front of the building, which is along Central Avenue, in two different roof planes. So basically, there's two roof planes, and then there's a U shape between the two roof planes. Those existing roof planes along Central Avenue are watertight, are good, and the intent was just to do a repair. Unfortunately, my contractor overstated the scope of the project, so that's really why I'm here to seek some relief. It's very costly, and it would be, you know, as you can see from the photographs, no one can see this anyway. This element of the building is virtually unviewable because of the trees, which are, of course, appropriate and good for the community, and because we have the colors so closely matched. So we're just requesting that our application be modified to replacing the failed roof system that's within the courtyard only.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Looks like we have no registered opponent, so we can move to public hearing now. Are there any public comments about?
Excuse me, sir. Whenever you get a chance.
I work for the contractor Bayside Roofing. I'm the one that pulled the permit and went through all the paperwork. The paperwork was submitted that we do the inside horseshoe 5 squares of the Ludowici tile.
I'm sorry, would you introduce yourself and
I'm
give an address?
Jessica Ramori, Bayside Roofing, 5439 Mile Stretch, Holiday.
Go ahead.
So the paperwork was submitted correctly. She asked me, I believe her name was Laura, asked if the scope of work was the same as the previous certificate of appropriateness. I said yes, thinking that the scope of work would be taking the tile off, replacing it with Ludowici tile. I did not tell her we were doing the entire mansard. I told her we were doing the inside 5 squares. And I missed, I guess, on the permit where it said that the entire mansard had to be replaced, or we would not have went forward with it.
Okay. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
So any other public comment?
I do not have any cards.
Okay, thank you. So now we have cross-examination. Ms. Perkins for the city?
I'll waive.
Great. And does the owner have any other cross-examination, any questions, any more points to make?
No, I do not. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, rebuttal and closing remarks. Ms. Perkins?
I do not have any at this time.
Okay, thank you. And the owner? Any closing remarks?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we can turn to executive session, and the commission can raise questions and questions. Mr. Wolf.
Yes. I understand that you actually did not do work on the front facade of the roof, front section of mansard. You only did the interior courtyard. So the front is as it was before.
Yes, the front two surfaces along Central Avenue are as they have been for decades. And
was there, I guess this might be more for staff, I don't know if part of the COA was a requirement to do them all, or a requirement only that if what was replaced would be replaced with the French-style tile?
I don't think we've ever received a request that was only for partial replacement of a pitched roof. Normally you come in, there are often buildings will have a mixture of roofing, and when they come in, they redo the entirety of the roof, which is what we understood the request was to be, because the building permit said re-roof mansard roof. It did say 5 squares. We did not know what that 5 squares only meant the interior courtyard. We also issued the COA prior to the building permit approval that also has that condition that it needs to be the entire mansard roof. Discussions between staff and different contractors representing the property have gone back for years, indicating the entirety. We would want to bring part of the local landmark is you bring the property completely under compliance, and having a mixture of roofing materials is not something I think we would have staff approved. We've always would have sent it to commission.
Could you bring up the aerial on that again that shows the mansard and then the
Yeah.
courtyard?
Is it the, well, we'll get there when it shows up.
Are there other questions, comments from commissioners?
So, yes.
Madam Chair, I wonder, and you've just called for a picture to go up on the screen again. I know that you have highlighted the courtyard's mansard in blue. That's not the color of the tile.
Oh, no. It was to create a distinction between the two, because you can't really fully see in this. That was it. It was not to indicate that they installed a blue tile. No.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely not. No.
I understand. Do the colors match courtyard to front?
They're close, yeah.
Okay. Would the city be willing to accept that when the day comes that those front elevations need to be repaired and replaced, that at that time the French-style tiles be installed?
That would, yes, if you guys were to approve this mixed roofing, when they would come in for the front, we would require that the entirety, the new materials match what is on the rest of the roof.
I'm not sure how we would approach that as a commission. Do we, in essence, approve this COA but put a condition in place that says if the front elevations are ever repaired, replaced, that they must be replaced with the French-style tile to match the interior courtyard's tiles?
I mean, I think you can make that condition years in the future. Will that condition be known by staff at that time? You know, it's hard to keep a condition like that. That's for some future application that you have a changeover in staff that people would know that.
I guess I'm making that request or asking that question because I respect the owner's, let's call it dilemma, that why replace a roof system that's functioning appropriately? He's obviously addressed the courtyard mansard roof where it is leaking or there are issues. Why replace the front if you don't have to? So are we dealing maybe more with an issue of a paperwork confusion than we are an actual issue to be addressed?
I don't, I'm sorry, let me think about that, your question.
I guess I mean to say if the certificate of appropriateness were a request to just replace the interior courtyard roof tiles, would we be in compliance? Would there even be a need for this after the fact COA?
Well, as I said earlier, if you're not bringing the property into, I would say, compliance with its architectural intent, like I said, a mixture of roofing materials is not something I've ever seen advised from a preservation standpoint when it comes to historic buildings. So I think we always would have sent that request to this commission, and that was written by the previous staff person, Larry Fry, to Michael Satino in 2018. That was also written again by, I think, Laura, or indicated, you know, that email chain went for many years to people who represented this property.
Thank you.
Yeah, my concern, I mean, it seems slightly ameliorated by the fact that the front wasn't replaced, but my concern was that in the report, it did seem that this had been extensively discussed for several years as an entire replacement. So I have a hard time getting over having it not done when it was so well documented as being a part of the original COA. I can understand that the concern about trying to do a section that was not failed at the time, but there seems to be a fairly long history saying that all of the tile needed to be replaced and brought into conformance with the original standards, and that was what was approved. So there's somewhat of a dilemma there. And I don't know if the owner can speak to that. I know that the owner has somewhat of a history of doing a lot of historic renovations, so I was kind of surprised to see us in this situation.
I must say, thank you. I must say I'm surprised. My first encounter with the city on this building was when the building inspector told me I should tear the building down because it would never meet code. So we've come a long way as a community since this was a pioneering historic preservation project for the community. And I would just say this, the scope of the COA is not all that extensive or that detailed. Yes, this took a long time. It took a long time because the first contractor didn't bother to get a COA, and he just bollocksed the whole thing up. So when we finally went in for the COA, it got presented as the entire roof by mistake. And the back and forth was we were struggling to find appropriate and available materials that could qualify for a CFA. We've selected materials that were just not available and weren't being shipped, and then we had to go back through and get another roofing material approved. So there wasn't this long history of focusing on the full job. It was just when the second contractor went in, they just made the mistake of asking for the full job, and then it wasn't a big back and forth with the city over that at all. The real back and forth was the first contractor didn't do it correctly, and then the second contractor had to go through a couple of different options before we could find an appropriate material that was available.
Just a follow-up, is that material, the concern of trying to do this as a condition for future is the ability to match whatever's been put on the courtyard?
I would be
12 months or 24 months or whatever.
Excuse me for interrupting. I'd be willing to go purchase the sufficient materials to do it correct, to continue that on when the time comes. I mean, I'd accept that as a condition of approval.
I have a question for city staff. Ms. Perkins, so I just want to be clear, on the mansard across the front of the building, that's the Ludovici tile?
No, that's
Okay.
what we think is asbestos shingles. That's what it appears to be.
Okay, and then the Ludovici is in the courtyard. And it's the Ludovici that's the appropriate.
So that is sort of, I guess, another issue is that we would really want the proper material to be on the front of the building, rather than what looks to be asbestos shingles that I imagine was installed decades ago.
Okay, but the owner is saying that on the mansard across the front is a fine roof. It's,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, that's the old saying of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. But the Ludovici tile is a pretty character-defining element. I understand that it's up there, and I want to say thank you for saving and restoring this building. So we are in a different place now, and we appreciate these buildings. So I'm in a spot too where I just don't think we can project out 15 or 20 years that you should do X. I kind of feel like we need to be consistent now and get it done right. With the Ludovici for the whole piece. So, yeah.
Just a question, I saw there was an issue of getting a tile, and in reading, wasn't sure if it ended up, we keep referencing a specific brand. Was that what went up, or was it a different brand, something you were able to obtain?
This is what went up, yes.
Or was it Luigi? Okay.
And as I say, I would be willing to go out and purchase a sufficient amount and keep it on site so that, we would be able to complete the job when the time came.
Has there been any projection of how long the lifespan is of that roof?
No idea. I think the failure we had was, there are, back in the courtyard area, there are two corners where the tiles come together at a 90-degree angle, and that's where the failure occurred. So there's nothing in that suggests that the front surfaces would be impaired.
Commissioner Whitman.
Ms. Perkins, did you say that the application did request the replacement of 5 squares or 3 squares?
It was 5 squares. I understand that means 500.
500 square feet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a specific roofing. So I mean, that seemed like a large enough space that we thought that covered the entire mansard roof. We'd already issued the COA with the condition for the entire, and that was a condition on the building permit. Okay. So we thought if that was an issue, it would have been brought up prior to the work being done.
Okay, and then I see the original application in 2018 says replace the existing historic French tiles at mansard. So to me, they were not asking to replace the front. And it says repair damaged wood decking and roof components. Doesn't say anything about the front at all. It just says historic French tiles. So the second thing is, when they go to replace the front, they're going to have to come back to the CPC for a certificate of appropriateness. So we don't need to look 15 years in the future. When they go to pull the next permit, they'll have to come back here anyway. Am I correct?
They would need a permit, yes, sir.
COA.
Yeah, they would need a permit, and that permit would have a COA requirement attached to it.
So we don't have to project 15 years. It's going to happen anyway. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Having heard the discussion here, I would be inclined to, I wouldn't ordinarily do this, but I would be inclined to approve the COA. My experience has been that when you replace a roof, you usually replace all of it. In this situation, we have a kind of a special case, an exception, and I think that Mr. Reddard is showing good faith here by offering to go out right now and purchase the tiles that would be needed to replace the old tiles on the front of the building to be installed when that is necessary.
To pat myself on the back a little bit, this isn't my first rodeo. I've done 20 historic preservation projects in the city of St. Petersburg.
So we can't really, I don't believe we can require that as a condition, though, that the owner go purchase the tiles.
It's I would say that's an avant-garde condition,
Right,
at least.
right, okay, okay.
I think we probably could do a conditioned approval, certainly specifying that roof replacement in the future will be done with a, I don't know if you want to call them clay tiles or whatever they are, versus the asbestos type tiles that are on the front.
Right.
But I think that at minimum should be a condition of any approval.
Ms. Perkins, can you give us language that we should use on the designating the tile, if somebody wants to include that in a motion?
To approve the COA as proposed with the condition that later on the front roof will match the materials of the interior courtyard. I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, just to give us a descriptor for the tiles. Ludovici tile?
I mean, Ideally, you want it to be the same manufacturer and color. I mean, Ludwig's been around for a while. I do have concerns about buying tile now. What if in the future it doesn't meet Florida Building Code, or if there's other kind of changes to criteria? So that gives me a little bit of hesitation. From a code standpoint, you don't know when Florida Building Code could change. That might require a different wind level that maybe Ludwig doesn't produce, things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it should be that replacement roof on that front mansard roof should be a French type, a French style tile. That rhymes too much. A French type tile that replicates the historic textures and materials and to match the rest of the courtyard. But I have concerns if it's not able to be found or not able to be installed, then we're going to have another mixture of roof cladding materials. So
My thought, and I might try and craft it, and we may want to do this as first as an amendment and vote on the amendment. Then we still have the COA left in case the amendment or in case the motion doesn't.
I always think it's cleaner to do an amendment or a new condition standalone, and then, assuming it's approved, to vote on the application as amended.
Something to the effect that a motion to amend the COA such that a condition of approval will be that upon any further roofing activity, the front facade will be matched with the tile of the historic tile that is used on the interior courtyard, or if that interior courtyard tile is not available, then the entire roof shall be replaced with a historically appropriate material.
Okay, thank you. Everybody clear on the motion?
If that language seems clear, I would offer that as a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I have a question on that.
I'll second it first.
I have a question on that amendment.
Yes.
You're saying replace the entire roof or replace just the mansard?
I am saying staff has appropriately brought up that Ludovici may not make that tile. There may be a building code change saying that if they go for a permit in a year from now, and that tile is no longer meets code, then they may be faced with not being able to put that tile on the front. So I'm having kind of a dual condition. One is, if it's still available and it still meets code, then the work could be confined to just the front mansard. But if that tile is no longer available, then they have to just redo the roof, all of it, so that it all matches.
The entire mansard?
Yeah, so that it all matches. Because that's the issue we have here now, is that we have two mismatched materials which staff would not normally approve at all. It occurred because there was only a partial replacement done.
Anything else?
The mansard is what it's. The mansard.
Yeah, but he's saying the entire roof.
Yes, well, the entire mansard.
There we
I'm
go.
sorry. I'm sorry, I misunderstood yes, not the flat roof or any other, the tile portion of, the mansard portion of the roof. So that when further work is done on the roof, it will all match, whether that's because we were able to use the tile that's been used, or whether we have to strip it all off and find a tile that is historically appropriate that will meet code at the time or is available at the time.
I think we have amended motion there.
Yes, we do.
Commissioner Rogo.
Oh, an amended motion to the word mansard as opposed to in.
Okay, yes, I don't know if I accept that as a friendly amendment or just amend my motion.
And the second will accept it as well.
Here we go.
And then just as a clarification, that when you say work begins or work, it's going to the city for a permit for the roof, right?
Okay, yes.
I would think that would have to be the triggering event.
All right.
So, I mean, otherwise, we would.
Upon.
We would have no knowledge of any other kind of roofing work.
Okay.
Okay.
And the whole issue of availability may even become moot if the owner does indeed purchase additional tiles for the front two portions of the mansard. So.
Yeah, subject to code change, I would probably do that just because of how problematic it's been to get materials in, having them either be changed or not available. So we have I guess, a motion and a second.
Right, and just to be clear, so this is to approve the COA with the condition that
This is to,
when it, pardon?
this is to approve the condition only, which is
Okay, got it, okay.
as
So,
amended by.
so we need to vote on the amendment first.
That's correct.
Okay. So are we ready to vote on the amendment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You do that by roll call? I think we need to do that by roll call.
I can do both. Rogo,
Yes?
Whitman,
Yes?
Winters,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I now move approval of the amended COA in accordance with the original in accordance with our amended conditions.
Okay, and we already have a second on that, so any final discussion? All those in favor, or I guess roll call, sorry.
Rogo,
Yes?
Whitman,
Yes?
Winters,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Dima, I have a quick question, because I realized that I had a conflict because of my office address.
Uh-huh.
If my office address has changed in the last few weeks, do we need to continue to do the switch and go, or can I put
If
my
your
new
office-
address
if your
on
office address has changed, please notify the clerk so that when we do conflict checks, geographic conflict checks, and we do this for
Yeah, that's my fault.
every single one of you in advance of these meetings, just give that update. And, you know, I don't know how far your office moved, but
Far.
So you might be in more
Meaning there
in
would
more
be-
down.
There wouldn't be a conflict
Cases
on the
then.
one on
Okay.
2 agendas down, and I didn't know if we could fix that problem before that. If I put
there-
my
are there-
new address on the record, if I'd still have a conflict.
Now, are you talking for subsequent items today?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if you're not,
I have a conflict on agenda item 3, I think.
and you're no longer downtown?
Correct.
Okay.
If I put my address on record during, before that,
Put your new address on record at the beginning of that item and state that
we'll still give the opportunity for them to waive, or to defer.
to defer with respect to the lack of 7
Right.
commissioners, but not because of
Right,
any
right, right,
conflict
right.
that you have.
I don't think they want to defer just because I'm not going to be on.
Right on. Okay.
I'm not that cool. All right. Just trying to keep things smooth as possible. Okay. Second agenda item, Ms. Connell, please.
City file number 21-902-00034, review of a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of a single-family residence at 620 10th Avenue South, a contributing resource to a local historic district. Owner Tobias and Jill Backner. There is no agent. Address, again, 620 10th Avenue South.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Perkins, welcome back.
Hi, good afternoon.
You have 10 minutes.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Good afternoon, Kelly Perkins. We are here for a COA for demolition of 620 10th Avenue South. The subject property is located in the Roser Park Historic District. It is located in the local and national register historic district. It is a contributing structure to both districts. The property was built circa 1918. That's the earliest map of the area we've been able to find the property located on. It's in a frame vernacular style. Here's a 1918 Sanborn map that shows it depicted originally as a 2-story structure. You can see the property outlined in red. Over the years, the property was expanded with a lot of one-story additions added to the exterior of the property. Many of those one-story additions are in very poor condition. The project is proposing total demolition of the contributing structure. Their application for demolition included the following: an estimate of demolition and new construction ranging from $140,000 to $182,000, and an estimate of renovation of the existing structure totaling $293,000. These were the only information we were provided. We sent it to the chief building official. He felt that the estimate of demolition was a bit low and that some of the estimate of renovations was a bit high, but without having an engineering report or any more backup material, he could not say for sure. Here's some photographs of the property. It has not been inhabited for what appears to be decades. As you can see, parts of it are in poor condition. Pretty much based on the lack of substantive analysis from the applicant about the lack of feasibility of rehabilitation, staff is recommending denial of the certificate of appropriate request. If the commission does grant the COA for demolition, staff recommends the following condition of approval be added: that a certificate of new construction at the subject property by the Community Planning and Preservation Commission and a complete set of drawings for a building permit be submitted and approved by the Urban Planning and Historic Preservation Division and Development Review Services Division staff before the demolition permit be granted. And this is a similar condition that's been recommended for previous demolition COA requests. That's the end of my presentation, and the owner is here.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Perkins. The owner, Tobias and Jill, I'm going to mess this up. Bachner?
That's good enough. How you doing?
Well, I want to get it right.
Buchanan.
Buchaner.
Yes.
Mr. Buchaner.
Yes.
Welcome. If you could please state your full name, your address, let us know and you be sworn in.
Tobias J. Buchaner, 1695 Castlewood Lane, Palm Harbor, 34683. And I have not been sworn. I do.
Thank you. Welcome. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, so this is I'm new to this process of the historical preservation process in terms of the staff, you guys. So I'm a quick learner, but this is new, and I just recently got the staff report, which runs to 49 pages. But in my review of it, I can see that there's a number of things that need to be looked into, and I agree with Ms. Perkins that there's a number of things that are as yet outstanding to be, information that you guys would need to make an informed decision. So, for example, in addition to the concrete things regarding costs, the engineering we tried to get done, but we by this date, but our engineer couldn't make it, didn't get their report done by this time. It was also this idea that there's if it would be demoed, then what would replace it would be would play a role in determining what you all want. For example, I found out through the report that there's some tax incentives for renovation. So so these are things that are looked into. So my plan at this point is to, I would like to basically continue the matter, and I would like to get with staff. I think the point person for this particular application is Kelly Perkins. I think I got that right. So, so my plan is to get with her and get all the materials assembled, and then come back.
Okay, so my understanding is you're wanting to defer the matter and not have us make a decision today and
No,
come.
I don't think you have enough I agree with her. You don't have enough information to make an informed decision.
So our move then is to let him defer, or because
There has to be a motion of.
there's got to be a motion now because it's to defer.
Yep. and
Because it's already been read in.
Appropriate to defer action based on a request for additional information. And it sounds like he might be exploring his options with staff that include keeping the structure as well. So I think that you can defer up to 2 months. And I think that would be appropriate, given that the applicant themselves has asked for it. So
Just for clarity for me, we make that motion now because we've read it in already. Could he have deferred prior to it being read in, or would we need to make that motion?
once this hearing is started, I would request a motion of
Got
the
it.
body. Thank you.
Any motion?
Make a motion to defer this for up to 2 months.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Second, Mr. Wolf. Let's vote. Any questions or comments before we do that? Sorry, I went there quick.
Probably staff, I think 2 months probably would give enough time if the engineer is already working to finish his report and for you to get with staff. Is that a comfortable level for you? And then the same question.
Code requires up to 2 months from action taken at the hearing.
Yeah.
If there's there's other things in the code that we can use if there needs to be more.
So wording it as up to
2
2 months would allow it to come possibly
The
sooner.
motion doesn't need to include the timeline because it's already written into the code, correct? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
I like to make it clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say it's conceivable, but I want that maybe all of these things could be resolved by the next meeting. I'm not
You
sure.
could absolutely come before the 2 months, Mr. Backner.
Okay.
No question.
Up to.
Yep,
So
it's-
either next month's CPPC or the one after that.
Yep.
You have that option. If you're ready to go again next month, then we can accommodate that too, sir.
I'll work with staff to determine whether that's a good idea.
I like it. Thank you very much.
We have to stop, we haven't had a roll.
We're
call.
go- well, I wasn't. I'm getting there. I promise. I'm reading the notes. Kate does a good job keeping me on point. All right, let's vote.
Gertis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion to defer passes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the work. You guys thought I was all going to quick ball that. Come on now. Okay. All right. Before we read this next item in, my office has moved over the last few weeks, and I no longer have an office at 700 Central Avenue, Suite 300, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33701. My office has moved to 1511 Northwest Shore Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33611. Significantly further than what I think the 1,000 feet is.
Not even the same jurisdiction anymore.
So I just wanted to put that on record because otherwise I would have a conflict with this matter, but because of that office change, I do not. So,
Quite above and beyond to move your office
right?
out of all
I was
conflicts.
trying to help. So, okay, Ms. Connell, if you could please read this item into the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, before we read it in, should we pose the question to the applicant that we only have 6 people, and does he or she wish to proceed?
Yes, thank you.
I believe you were here when I made the announcement before, but there's only 6 commissioners here, so you still need 4 votes. It's the majority anyway, but you still want to proceed today? Yes. Okay, great.
Just the church.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogo. Keep me honest. See, I should have kept my mouth shut.
Agenda item number 3, city file number 21-903-0003. Review of an owner-initiated request to remove the 10th Street Church of God, HPC 00-01, from the St. Petersburg Register of Historic Places. Representative is Pastor Carl Mobley Sr. Owner is the 10th Street Church of God, Incorporated.
Okay. Mr. Kilborn, welcome.
Hey, thank you and good afternoon. Derek Kilborn, manager for the city's Urban Planning and Historic Preservation Division. This is a unique application. I don't know that our division has processed one like it before, and it is a request to what the code calls rescind, or what we commonly refer to as de-designate this existing local landmark. What I'm going to do is briefly go through a quick history of the church and then walk you through some of the procedural steps so that you understand how that works. The 10th Street Church of God was originally constructed in 1898 as the first Presbyterian church, and it is the second oldest wooden church building in the city. Some of you may be familiar with St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church on 34th Street South, specifically 3743. That is the oldest wood frame church in the city. In 1913, the church building was moved from its original location at the southwest corner of 3rd Street and 4th Avenue to its current address today at 207 10th Street North. The 10th Street Church of God has long been considered, for that obvious reason, one of St. Petersburg's most historic and architecturally significant buildings. The original community redevelopment plan for the Jamestown project area, which was dated in August 1974, considered the church as the only, quote, historic or architecturally significant site or structure in the redevelopment area. Later, as part of the 1985 Historic Resources Management Plan, the 10th Street Church of God was identified as one of 28 properties within the city that were eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. 2 decades later, on July 19th, 2001, the St. Petersburg City Council voted to designate the subject property and formally list the 10th Street Church of God as a local landmark in the St. Petersburg Register of Historic Places. The original application and City Council material notes that that designation and application was processed with support from the church and ownership at that time. The adoption ordinance identified 2 criteria for designation, including, first, its value as a building is recognized for the quality of its architecture and it retains sufficient elements showing its architectural significance. And 2, it has distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style, in this case, Carpenter Gothic, valuable for the study of a period, method of construction, or use of indigenous materials. Now, this wording may sound a little different than the criteria that we currently have in the code, because we did do an update to the code in 2015. So I mentioned that this is a request to rescind or de-designate the listing. Pursuant to city code, the designation of any local landmark may be amended or rescinded through the same procedure utilized for the original designation. So what we are doing here is unwinding the process by coming to this commission first with a request for recommendation. That recommendation then will be brought forward to City Council, and City Council will conduct a public hearing, and they are the final authority on whether or not to rescind the designation that's been requested. The request to rescind this local landmark requires the applicant then to follow the same procedures for listing, which includes providing a detailed explanation for how the local landmark has lost its historic integrity in the context of the designation criteria and the code's factors of integrity. And as you know, those are identified in the city code. There is a essentially 3-part test. The first question is whether or not the structure itself is 50 years in age or more. We obviously know that this structure is, and therefore qualifies on that criterion. There are the designation criteria, and then there are the factors of integrity. In this particular case, the applicant has provided no explanation or report demonstrating the loss of historic integrity in the context of the designation criteria and factors of integrity in the code, However, the applicant has provided information relating to a recent request from their insurance company and one estimate for related building repairs. Those were included with your packet as Attachment A. The merits of the original local landmark designation remain, however, which is evaluated separately from maintenance and repair. The local landmark should continue to be protected for these reasons, which are identified in the building's original designation report, which we also included as Attachment B. Lacking that information or any demonstration that historic integrity has been lost, the Historic Preservation staff recommends that this commission vote to recommend denial of the owner-initiated request to rescind designation of the 10th Street Church of God and removal from listing in the St. Petersburg Register of Historic Places. Just as a footnote, a vote to deny this request will recommend keeping the existing local landmark designation in place, and the subject property will continue to be listed in the St. Petersburg Register of Historic Places. And then finally, I mentioned in the introduction, because we are unwinding the process, your decision today is a recommendation to the City Council. It is not a final vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kilborn. Pastor Mobley.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Glad you can help me.
If you could please state your full name, your address, and whether you've been sworn in or not.
Carl E. Mobley, Sr., 4137 Alberca Way South, St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm the senior pastor of 10th Street Church of God. I've been there 23 years.
Pastor Mobley, I just want to make sure. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I've been sworn in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just didn't want to lose a thought that Peter said, that it's the oldest church in St. Petersburg. Well, if you don't do something to an old building, what happened to it? This is my statement today to the city councilors and the zoning committee. We want to do ministry. I am ordained out of Anderson, Indiana. I went to seminary school. I've been doing this for a long time. My goal is to keep doing ministry. But when Guide 1 comes out and do assessment on this building that the city has not done, they cited us for a new roof, new electric panel, sidewalk, repainting of the church, which we done. They closed the kitchen down. We don't have the funds to do this due to the COVID. I sent a letter to them stating why we are going in this direction. To my knowledge, the church is a church to save lives and win souls for Christ. We are trying to do the best we can. I got estimates for the roof, the front part of the roof, $41,000. I got all the estimates here from All Trades Historical. Also, I had a termite guy to come out, and he told me, he said, "You're wasting your time." Termites have done ate up the building. Also, I took recent, we had a strong wind come the other day. I took recent photographs. This is the church. A hole and blow through the roof. This is debris on the ground. We're asking the committee to release us so we can move on. If not, do the city want the building? Do you guys want the building? You can have it. It was moved there before, it can be moved again. We can't maintain it. Why would I go and borrow money for a building that would not stand up? He stated that. It's one of the second oldest churches in St. Petersburg. Well, we all have homes. If you don't do something to your home, it will not stand. After sitting here and listening to the way these meetings go, the congregation is want to walk away and just leave the building. That's why you don't see another one of my members standing here today with me. I'm not leaving. I'm in it for Christ. That's why I went to seminary school. I'm not going anywhere. But the city say that they have, Derek, I think that's his name, Derek Kimmore. I've never met the guy. I talked to him over the phone one time or twice. You got us up against a wall. The pandemic, I don't have to sell the pandemic to you all. The pandemic reconstruction the whole world. I went from 250 members down to 40. I would like for you all to put yourself in my position. I think God's word has reference over anything else. So, this is where I'm at today. I'm asking to be taken off of this for 10th Street Church of God. I'm an advocate speaking for them because what they're saying is, whenever they did this, I don't think they got a vote. Some pastors just do things that they feel that it's put on their heart to just do it. Well, those members are not there anymore. The congregation now is telling me to tell the city, do you want the building, since you don't want the building demolished, do you want it? Because I'm steadily losing members. We had a good time in that community for ministry and saving lives and winning souls for Christ. That's what a church is about. It's not the building. So we are asking them to be released from the building so we can move on. Someone wanted to buy the building. I wasn't trying to sell the building. I was trying to fix the building up. But when you start going and getting estimates and you know what your bank account is, you see it's no way. There's no way to get the building fixed up. We don't have the funds. Now I get people calling me that want to save the bird, and they're talking about grants and all that. But you guys know grants ain't that easy to get. So here's a good pastor, Pastor Mobley, said that I would go to the bank and get a loan. And then the board looked at me in the board meeting and said, who's going to pay the loan back? You don't have any members to pay the loan back. So I'm asking the city the zoning committee or whatever this committee is, I'm asking you guys to take this stuff under consideration. You know, you're talking about a roof with a slant on it, so high up in the air, and the cheapest what I got, I think, was $41,000. Then the flat part is leaking now. So we didn't have a hurricane, we just had a strong wind, and this is what happened to the church. A strong wind. You know, all I can hear from everybody is the building. What about people lives that need to be saved? And what about people that's been going there for 35 years, don't have a building to worship in anymore? It's termites, and it's on and on. I had someone that wanted to do an article and take pictures and come down here with me. I wanted to do this God's way. I'm saying most of you all probably attend a church. I pray to God that you do. But just put yourself in our position today. I know it sounds like I'm crying, but I'm also hurt. I'm not only crying to you, but I'm hurt. Because I have members in that church that didn't even know this was on the historical list. Didn't even know. So that's water. But the thing about it is, what we going to do from here? Every time I ask the city, do they want the building, nobody answered. It was moved there once before. We need a new church. We need a building where we can have Sunday morning services. The pandemic has eased up. People are going back into churches, using the porches, being safe. We can't do that. When a strong wind comes and the rain comes, it leaks in the church. So where we at today, his recommendation is not to let it be removed. Why? The 23 years I've been there, the city have cited us over and over and over for rotten wood, everything. Been put one nail in that building. And my congregation, their point today is, how can they tell us what to do with our building? He said it's on the circle list. So, I hate to preach to you, but I don't have nowhere else to preach. I'm going to preach in here today. Y'all gave me the opportunity, and that's my job. I'm a pastor. My concern is people, not a building.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
Okay. We'll move into, there is no registered opponent, correct, Ms. Connell? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into public hearing. If Ms. Brayboy, did I do that right?
Yes.
Ms. Brayboy, if you would please state your name, your address, and if you've been sworn in, please.
My name is Carolyn Brayboy, 144 23rd Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33705, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Just in support of deactivation from the preservation list, we're in a situation really which is economic and also community-based. My husband and I engaged in a minor fashion in that there was a broken sidewalk, and we repaired the broken sidewalk at the church, just trying to do what we could do. But and I'm a do-it-yourself renovator, so in my observation of the building, it is just extreme damage. Although it is a structurally and initially a very nice building, the architecture that's there is very unusual. It would be great if the building could be moved someplace and someone had the funds to restore it. But just in my observations, a lot of damage, small congregation, they don't have the ability to do the repairs. And I would love to see them move on because their mission is, as he said, saving lives, and winning souls. So I think it would be a win-win if someone could take that building, lift it, move it someplace, had the funds to restore it, then free them up so that they can either rebuild there or whatever they're going to do and continue their work. And we have a situation that's win-win for everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Brayboy, if you could state your full name, your address, and let us know whether you've been sworn in, please.
My name is Elihu Brayboy, address 144 23rd Avenue South, St. Petersburg, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you. I've known Carl since high school, and to see him now in ministry is a great thing because we've both come a long way from our days in high school. And it's just Financially, the church is the owner of this historic building. But as Carl has clearly stated to you guys, prior to the pandemic, he was struggling on the maintenance. Post-pandemic, his hands are up. He has to surrender. For staff to say, no, don't allow them to declassify this from historic designation, there is, in that staff comment, there is no, oh, we'll give them a grant or we'll give them funds to make such improvement. That's just so, I don't know, what's the right word? Totalitarian? You're dictating, but you're not getting involved in what it takes to be there to support it. So you put a rule on this gentleman that could ultimately cause his demise, or, you'll see it in the newspaper about the church allowing itself to fall apart. Well, he's just not allowing it. He just can't. I helped him to try to find bids for roofers. Finding a roofer that can take that type of roof is the number one problem. Number two, then finding affordability. So there's no affordability. There's no way for him to restore that building at all. And we just wanted to be here to support him in the sense that in many times, I have to just be on the list here, I have also been in the same slot where staff did not recommend the support of a project of ours. And it hurts because you're now coming against, you guys work with staff all the time, so you got to believe staff integrity about things is high. But in this case, as Carl has stated, Pastor Mobley has stated, staff never even been to the site. So they've never walked the grounds, but they can call a decision about it. That's not fair. But I tell you who has walked the grounds, code enforcement has. So if he walks away from here today without your support, code is going to close it down anyway. So he's not going to be able to do his work there. It's too far gone. So I just want to ask you guys, please take the realistic approach of this. If you don't support his withdrawal from historic district and you don't give him monies to rebuild the building, you're really not, this is not a solution. You're setting him up for a failure in the future. And that's why I think that you don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I don't think the city of St. Petersburg City Council would like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Elwin? Miss Elwin, welcome. If you would state your full name, your address, and whether you've been sworn in or not, please.
Yes, my name is Emily Elwin. I live at 836 16th Avenue Northeast. I have been sworn in, and I'm here as a board member of Preserve the Burg.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. And I wanted first to say, historic preservation, we understand that it's about the buildings, but it's also about the communities that populate those buildings. And as Preserve the Burg, we would like to help. I know you spoke with Peter Belmont, one of our board members, and I know there are a number of folks in the community that would like to find a way to keep this building intact, to keep it listed. I think that, like I said, preservation, there are options. Whether we move the building, we don't need to delist it to keep it from being historic. There's a process for going through declaring a building not being historic, as we all know. And you would have to show that it is no longer architecturally significant. It's no longer historically significant. There is a process for going through demolition, and that's through the COA process. And I think that's a better way to go if we need to look at demolishing this building. But I also feel strongly that as a community, if we could pause, if we could stop, if we could find a way to work together, I would really hope that there is a way that would benefit both the congregation. I understand what you all are doing, and I understand how difficult it is to upkeep a historic building, but to find a way to move forward without de-designating this building. So, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move into cross-examination. Mr. Kilborn, any cross-examination?
No cross. No.
Okay. Pastor Mobley, any cross-examination for Mr. Kilborn? Yes, it is. You have some? Yeah, come on up. You have 5 minutes. If you would direct, I think he's going to direct questions to me, and then I'll find the person that can give you the answer.
Okay. First of all, what's the young lady's name right here? Emily Elwin. She never even been in the building.
Pastor?
Okay.
We're going to do questions.
Oh, okay.
You're going to get 5 minutes at the end to make closing statements.
Okay. Well,
questions at this time.
My question is It's like the brave boy, him and his wife said, we don't have the funds to do anything to the building. My point is today.
I need the question, Mr. Mobley.
Oh,
I'm just trying to follow protocol. If you want to make statements, we can move into closing remarks.
Yeah. Do you all have any money to give us? Is any money available to help us with this?
That's not really in our purview, Pastor.
Well,
I'd love to be able to
I
provide.
mean, that's a question. I mean, you said ask your question.
It's a
Pastor,
question directed towards.
Them?
This is like a procedural question, Pastor.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, if you have a question for somebody who spoke, so either Derek or Ms. Elwin, if you have a question for them, now's the time. Otherwise, you're going to have another 5 minutes to close out your argument.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of thing.
Well, see,
Sorry if I didn't communicate that.
Hold on. Like I told you earlier, I'm not familiar with this because I don't know how this go, but I do know how the Word of God goes. So you just want to just wait? Because obviously he got some closing argument.
If you have a question for Mr. Kilborn or Mr. Elwin, we'll do that now. Then Mr. Kilborn will have 5 minutes for any closing remarks. Then you'll have 5
Okay.
minutes.
That's what I was. Okay, I misunderstood you. I thought it was my time to go ahead on then.
You get another time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay.
All good?
Yeah, we good now. We're good.
Mr. Kilborn, any closing remarks?
I do. I have a couple,
Okay.
so I want to go through that. The pastor and I did speak on the phone a couple of times, and we went through a number of different options that would be available to the church. So we had really discussed two different things. And the pastor asked, what are we going to do from here? That's what I've been trying to figure out in the conversations with the pastor and the church. So the one option that we talked about is moving forward, first, to help them with the repairs and maintenance issues that they're having. And so we started to go down a line of questions and discussion about what are some of the different incentives or alternatives that might be available to the church to try to raise funds. There are specialized grant opportunities, one-time grant opportunities that we could try to secure from the city to help assist with the issues that they're having at the building. It's hard to define what that one-time grant might be because it's a one-time type situation. So those tend to be highly specialized. However, we do have other incentives. For example, I'm going to mention it. It's an ad valorem tax exemption. It doesn't have an immediate benefit to the church, but if the property was transferred ownership to some other entity and they were using it in a for-profit fashion, that buyer would have access to an ad valorem tax exemption, also a federal income tax credit if it was used for income-generating purposes. That's not going to help us here. So that hasn't been our focus, but it is something important to mention. We did talk about, could we assist and put some city resources behind some type of specialized fundraising or capital campaign to help the church raise money in partnership with local organizations. Preserve the Burg is our private organization that focuses and prioritizes preservation of historic buildings. We could partner with them and try to come up with some campaign for raising money. Ms. Gwendolyn Reese, who used to be a commissioner on this CPPC, grew up in Methodist Town neighborhood and has a very personal connection to that neighborhood. The African American Heritage Association of St. Petersburg, which she runs, might also be an excellent partner in trying to recruit money from the community to help offset the costs on maintenance. Also, the city has a transfer development rights program where the church could sell off undeveloped potential or air rights above the building. There's a very active market right now in the downtown, and we're seeing hundreds of thousands of TDR credits move from the historic preservation program. When we started talking about some of these different options and how we might line up our city staff or city resources, the conversation always drifted into the congregation selling the property and moving to another location and starting over at a different location. And so every time I would start to get some traction on some of these different options, we would kind of stumble into the conversation about moving on. So that takes us back to the first option, which is, do you have to de-designate the building in order to sell the property? And the short answer is no. You can sell the property with the designation on there. In fact, typically what would happen here is there would be a contract of sale, or the property would be sold, and the buyer is the one who would pursue a certificate of appropriateness for either renovation or demolition. There is a wing on this building that could be considered for removal. That would be a COA for renovation, partial demolition. Or if the new buyer was proposing a full demolition, they would come through and go through the normal process, which you heard in the earlier case requires different survey work and other things to be submitted. I want to bring Laura up because I just want to correct the record. I think that there was a comment that we haven't been out to the site. That is not correct. I personally have been out to the site multiple times. I have worked in this department for 21 years. I used to live downtown. I used to be by that site all the time. It is true. I haven't been inside, but I know that in just this application process alone, Laura was involved and had met out on the site, and I just wanted her to have an opportunity to say that as well.
Hey, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I did also meet with the pastor on the site, I believe 3 times during the application process. We also conducted a site visit to observe the damage that was noted a bit later.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Brooks. Thank you, Mr. Kilborn. Pastor Mobley. All right.
Yes, sir.
5 minutes, closing remarks. Don't have to worry about questions this time.
Okay. I'm not aware of Mr. Kilborn ever been out to the site. Maybe he was outside. You can't see the damage outside that's going on inside. I think we all are missing the point here today. The insurance company that we pays gave us a 45 days. You got the paper. 45 days to respond to this. And what he's standing up there saying to me now, maybe, save the bird, maybe. The insurance company, that don't mean that they're going to wait for 45 for the maybes. They gave me, I got the paper right here, they gave me a time limit to get this stuff done. We don't have maybes, we have a time limit, 45 days. You have a copy of the letter. Look at your letter, dated, the date on it. It's no maybes in here. Survey of the bird, I heard from them for one time, and it was 2 days, Friday, before coming here. Gwen Reese, she called me one time. Darrell Rousson called me one time. No one gave me anything guaranteed that we will be getting some funds. I understand Mr. Derek Kimball's job is to get up and say what he got to say. But my job is to say what I'm saying to you all today about God's building, God's people. There's no maybes in none of this. If the funds was available, why didn't we have to come to this point? Why didn't they come to the table when I presented the letter saying what we are faced up with? That's when you say, I got funds for this. Not now, to prolong this. So when, what's the next step? The city council? Do the city want the building? Since you want to keep it as Sturgis and you want to save the bird, do you want the building? That's my question today. Do you want the building? The congregation is willing to give it to you. Do you want the building? Laura came out to the site twice, and I asked her if we wanted to go through any of the steps. She said, no, we didn't need to see that. She's a lady. She didn't get up on the roof like the insurance company did. She didn't see all the termite droppings that the professionals came out and gave me a quote on. She don't know nothing about an electric panel being updated. I don't either. Ms. Brayboy and Mr. Brayboy came out and did the construction on the sidewalk that the insurance company was nitpicking. They want the whole building. Do you have a picture of that building? They want the whole building, the steeple and everything painted. So I got a time limit. I don't have maybes. So the hood system, I don't know if you all familiar with churches, and I hope you are. We have functions there. We have eating there. We've been closed down because, as they say, the hood system haven't been updated. It's out of order. They can no longer serve food in there. So, I mean, I didn't give you all I can give you. I gave you pictures. I'm giving you facts. It's on y'all. It's on y'all. If we walk away from that building, I don't know if you guys know that neighborhood. That's a transit neighborhood. Urinating, sleeping on the property, smoking dope, doing all that. We have the police, we got cameras there. We're going to take our cameras down. We can't maintain it. I got letters in here where I wrote the copy machine people. They was telling us we couldn't do that. They let us out of the lease because I showed them all this stuff that I'm dealing with. The city have the letters that I wrote due to the pandemic. Committee, our hands are tied. I think Mr. Kilborn and the Save the Bird need to be held accountable. You're saying maybe, but when? Can I get the insurance company off for me? If we're going to fix the building up. We don't have the funds. And I said it as nice as I can. Do the city want the building?
Thank you, Pastor. Yes, sir. Okay, we will move into executive session. Any questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner Winters.
I'll ask first, could we pull up a picture of the building? I think many of the people here maybe don't know it, and I have to say it's a really incredible example of Carpenter Gothic. A couple of points from the application packet. My understanding on the insurance company, they did cite the church for a number of overdue maintenance items, but none of those are actually mandatory. So I guess I'm going to question we've got a time limit of 45 days. I'm not really clear on that. And I will ask the staff a little later to talk a little bit about a very similar situation with a much less distinguished architectural church that was recently purchased by a developer, wanted to tear it down. There was a bit of an uproar in the neighborhood about it because it was a much beloved building, and the developer actually decided to rehab that building and sold it recently with a queue of people in line waiting to get in and see it for over $1 million. So there's people out there that are willing to work on churches. And I will say, this case really resonated for me, Pastor Mobley. I'm actually a member of a church that's very close to yours, the Unitarian Universalist Church on Mirror Lake. We have some really similar conditions when it comes to homeless on the street, a lot of activity immediately around us that makes it difficult to keep the outside of our building looking good. Very similar challenges, 1923 building, lots of deferred maintenance, lots of issues. We, however, have made the decision because we really like being downtown. We think that we're really connected to the community there. There's a lot of housing going in, where we think the location and the architectural quality of our building, a Mission Revival, really make us stand out from the rest of the community and really draw people through our doors. But we're faced with many of the same challenges, I understand. I also have experience in Tacoma, Washington. I worked with about a dozen congregations there, lots of different denominations, lots of different kinds of churches, but they all had historic churches or synagogues that were typically in urban areas, and every single one of those congregations felt that the church was a liability to them because they wanted to preach the word of God or whatever they needed to be in the community. And it was really hard for them to keep up with the maintenance of the building. And there were a lot of people in those congregations that I talked with who were like, just give me a break here, take the building. I've heard your story so many times, I understand it. But these are real assets in the community. And it's easy for me to tell you that. It's an asset for the community, and you want the community to do something about it. I do feel like the city and Preserve the Burg are willing to step in. It's a really incredible piece of architecture. Do we have a picture of the whole building, like on maybe Google Maps or something? It's something where I really feel that if you could find a developer who wanted to make the investment in it, and maybe turn it into some apartments or some condos. There's been a lot of projects across the country where people have taken old churches. You know, they don't go to church anymore. You know, they want to get rid of this giant historic building. There's people out there that are doing restoration, and I think Preserve the Burg and the city can connect you with some of those organizations. So there's a ton of history, a ton of architectural character. I know what you see is all the stuff you got to fix, you know, and I think other people see the potential in this building, the potential to rehab it and really make it right on the edge of downtown into a real community asset. That's a transitional neighborhood. You got to be a pioneer, you know, where we are and where you are, but the potential's there. So I hope we can continue conversations, but I cannot support delisting this. As Mr. Kilborn said, I think there's a real opportunity here to sell it to a developer who will want to rehab this building. So it's, you may see it as an economic challenge. I think other folks could see it as an opportunity.
Yes, Commissioner Wolf.
You know, we have a set of guidelines, laws that define what our duties are and what we're supposed to do. And we really haven't heard anything today that would give us any basis for delisting the building. We've had some reference to bad conditions. We haven't had any documentation of what those conditions are or that they rise to the level of making the building unusable or not restorable. So the fact that it needs maintenance doesn't really change the fact that it has been found to be a historic building, and there's been no evidence presented to say that it's no longer historic for whatever reasons that might justify it. So we don't have any basis to make that decision. Now, that's just following our guidelines and our procedures. On a separate issue, I don't see that delisting the building is going to change the saleability of the building. It may actually make it not as valuable because of somebody who can work with the tax credits or both tax credits and I forget the preservation credits, selling the development rights. I'm sorry, yeah, transfer of development rights. So I don't know that delisting it it's certainly not going to change any limitation that the insurance company has put on it for providing coverage. So I just don't see that we've had any evidence presented today that would allow us to form a justification that this building should no longer be listed. So unfortunately, I couldn't support that either.
Commissioner Roga?
I'm going to second what Commissioner Wolf, Commissioner Winters have just said. The applicant has not demonstrated any loss of historic significance or integrity. We cannot, therefore, I cannot, therefore, vote in favor of rescinding or removing the designation. It maybe should have been a discussion today about the appropriateness of demolishing the structure. There we could have entered into a conversation about what needs to be done, what are any, if any, sources of revenue to help you in fixing it up to prevent demolition. But we didn't, that wasn't what we were asked to do today. I'd like to put Emily Elwin on the spot if I can and ask her to come forward and maybe answer a question for me. Or I have been on this commission for a while, and I can think of a couple of occasions, maybe St. Peter's Episcopal and the name of the church that's now Foursquare, I think on Central or First Avenue North, which have been repurposed. Yes. And I think maybe one of the services that Preserve the Burg as well as the city can provide is identifying how the particular structure might be reused and identifying maybe that there are some folks out there who look to do that sort of thing.
Absolutely. You know, we are here, and we're also here. We've worked with the African American Heritage Network as well, with Graham Reese, trying to decide, you know, if you all want to sell the building. There are, I believe, a number of folks that can reuse it. We have a number of examples in St. Pete of historic churches that have been reused for something different, but still remain historic churches. But I also understand a congregation and the importance of place to that congregation. So if it's important to you all to be in this neighborhood, I think as well we can, you know, let's just slow this process down a little bit. I understand you want to have answers immediately, but anything that we can do to try and help this happen, whether it's remaining in the structure and rehabbing it, or whether it's selling it to another group that would use it and taking that money and using it for your mission, we understand. So Preserve the Burg is here to help. This is our mission. What we try and do is help folks with historic buildings. So we would be more than happy to continue that conversation.
Thank you. Ms. Owen? If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to kind of reiterate the point, if the congregation were to make the decision to sell, I think there are resources that can assist you in finding potential buyers, finding a new home. That wasn't the question we were posed today. So with the question we've been posed, I'm afraid that I must also vote to not rescind the historic designation, because it really isn't going to solve your problem. It's only going to present new problems for the community.
Commissioner Winters.
Just want to comment on the delisting request too. I know there's a lot of realtors out there who say, oh, it's on the register. You'll never be able to sell it. You won't get as much money for it. This is not true. This is not true. I actually have owned some historic properties on the register, and they always carry a premium, actually. It depends, of course, on location. But you can't buy that argument that, oh, this is just the kiss of death here. There are realtors out there who actually specialize in finding historic properties and marketing them and finding a buyer. Some people just are like, let's tear it down and build a 40-story building. You know, there's lots of different perspectives on this, and I think we've presented you kind of the alternative here, but I would encourage you to, if you need to move, if you need to find another spot, put it on the market, but leave it listed, and that will preserve this building and help conserve it for all of us. It's an incredible asset. It's the history of our city, and the history of Methodist Town that's embodied in that building.
I'm sorry, Pastor, we're past that point. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm just making a comment on there's different ways to look at this issue of delisting.
Commissioner Michaels.
I join in some of the comments of the other members of the commission here. We've got policies that have been established by the city that the commission needs to follow, and those policies, in this case, talk about documenting the loss of historic integrity, and that has not been done. I mean, I hear your appeal, but that has not been done. That's something that can still be done if you want to pursue this. We are obligated to carry out the policies of the city. We may want to change them, but until that happens, we have to follow what is in place presently. So I also cannot support the request that's before us here today. But I do hear what you're saying here. I also belong to a small, struggling church down in South St. Petersburg. And, I look at your letter here and I see you're writing, due to the COVID pandemic, our church has lost nearly 50% of its income. Our membership has dwindled to about 15 active members, and we are not receiving the funds it takes to maintain the building. And I understand, I realize, what this incredibly difficult situation is that you're in. And alternatives have been pointed out here, and I think the alternatives need to be pursued. But I do hear the urgency that you're bringing before us here today. And meeting with Preserve the Burg, looking at these other alternatives, there is a timeline here for you. I recognize that. And this is something that needs to be done urgently and quickly. And if it does not, if it does not work out, if there are not the results that we pray will occur, then you do have the opportunity to come back to us with a application that does meet the requirements of city policy. Thank you for coming.
I have a question for Pastor. Is this the latest insurance notification that you've gotten? The one that's dated November of 2020? Okay. All of these on here are alerts. They're not mandatory. I'm wondering why. Are you worried about losing coverage? Or are you worried about your premiums going up? I'm wondering why this is a centerpiece for you on why this has to be done like tomorrow. I'm asking you, Pastor. Now you can, because I got to ask you a question. I know, I'm confusing the heck out of you, man. You can blame it on me. That's the best part about it.
But you can ask questions, but I can't say anything.
I know, listen, I don't think they should give me the power to do that either, but they do.
What's your question again?
Okay. These are all alerts from your insurance company. They're not mandatory. Why is this the centerpiece of why this needs to get done tomorrow? This is dated
because it's
7 months ago.
I know it's raining in the building. Okay, we got termites in there. We didn't have pest control people to come out.
Okay, so it's the building. It's not the insurance.
It's the insurance too in the building. After they done brought everything to our awareness, about it. When it rains, when they get a downpour, it just comes in. I showed you the hole in the church.
My next question is, let's live in a hypothetical world for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And this commission approves your request, and you go to city council, and city council approves that, and you are no longer historic. What are you going to do?
Sell the building.
Okay.
Because
here's my.
Okay,
all right.
go ahead.
I appreciate the answers. Here's my concern, right? All of these people know buildings backward and forth. I do not. I will be the first to admit it. The struggle I have with this is, if you're going to sell the building, if we take the historical off, why wouldn't you just sell it now? That's a rhetorical question. I love you.
You don't want me to.
I love you. I love you. That's what's going into my head. No, it's not that I don't want you to answer. It's just that the answer is the same to me. You're going to sell it. You're going to sell it whether it's historic or not. And listen, man, what you're doing is awesome. It's awesome. I was a religion major in college. It's awesome. Period, end of story. And I hope you get to continue to do it. But you've made the decision that you're not going to do it in this building. And I wish we could give you another answer, but I don't think we're going to. But here is my request before I'm sure somebody is going to put this up for a vote. Keep doing it. Our community needs it. We need you, okay? And I'll be the first to say it. We need you. We need it in the community. But you're going to sell this building regardless of whether. So don't let that get in the way of you doing you, okay?
No, it's not. It's not going to get in the way.
That's the best I think that's the best we're going to do, but I appreciate you, okay? Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Whiteman.
No.
For who?
For our
For Mr. Dima.
For who?
The motion has to be in the affirmative.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yes.
So we're going to have to say that we make a motion to approve.
Correct.
De-designation.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So yes, understanding that we have to make an affirmative motion, I will move approval of the request for delisting or de-designation.
Second.
Thank you for your second, Mr. Whiteman. Let's vote, please. Unless there's any other comments. Any other comments or questions before we vote?
And a no vote is to deny the request.
Correct.
Clarify this, yes.
Commissioner Rogo.
A quick comment. I am going to vote no. I am voting no so that we can preserve one of the finest homes that God has here in St. Petersburg.
Thank you. Any other comments? Let's vote.
Curtis.
No.
Rogo.
No.
Whiteman.
No.
Winters.
No.
Wolf.
No.
Michaels.
No.
Motion fails.
Pastor Mobley, my prayer is that you continue to do the work regardless of the building. That's my prayer. Thank you for being here. Okay. There are lots of people who have been really patient that are still here. I'd like to continue to keep rolling. Everybody okay with that without taking a recess?
Can we take a break at about 15 or like after the next
Well, do the next one and then we'll take a break. You okay with that? Everybody good there? All right. I appreciate your willingness to keep rocking and rolling. Okay. We will move on to our fourth agenda item. Ms. Connell, if you will please read it into the agenda or the minutes, please.
Agenda item number 4, City File number 21-902-00045 and 21-904-0004. Review of a certificate of appropriateness for window replacement, pool and fence construction, and other rehabilitation at a contributing property to a local historic district. And review of Part 1 application for an ad valorem tax exemption for rehabilitation at a contributing property to a local historic district. The owner is Michael and Mary Ellen Hussey.
Commissioner Wolf, I think you have a
Yes, I was
conflict.
going to say, before we go further, I have to recuse myself on this item.
And you need to give them the choice.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Wyman. And then also, Mr. and Mrs. Hussey, you have the option, because of not having 7 members here, to defer this item. My guess is if you wanted to do that, you would have left already. So we'll continue to rock and roll. I can't see you. Will you give me a thumbs up? Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Duvicott, welcome, or again, I think. And you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Laura Duvicott, Historic Preservationist for the City of St. Petersburg. And here we have a certificate of appropriateness, as well as an associated pre-construction ad valorem tax exemption for rehabilitation at the property at 217 10th Avenue Northeast. The subject property was constructed circa 1920 and is a contributing property to both the North Shore National Register Historic District and the North Shore Section 200 block of 10th Avenue Northeast Local Historic District. Here is the subject property as it looks now. It exhibits a craftsman style with a large, really prominent wraparound porch, which, as you can see here, has been enclosed. There's also a large side yard that exists because of the property's large lot. Here are some additional photographs of the original windows that exist at the original front and side elevations, which have been enclosed by the enclosed porch. Part of this proposal includes removing that enclosure and re-exposing those historic elevations. The proposal also originally included a rehabilitation of the detached garage apartment unit. Unfortunately, some accidental damage was done by a fire at that garage apartment, so the ad valorem will be amended by a later amendment to the application, and an additional certificate of appropriateness will be submitted to work with the issues that building has. The window openings that will be changed are shown here. The X's indicate where window openings will be enclosed at the side and rear elevations and will be minimally visible. As well, the porch enclosure at the front porch is proposed for removal. Shown here are the proposed window replacements. Staff has included the typical conditions of approval that we do with window replacements about the casing being reinstalled, set back in the wall plane, and exterior muntins. The proposal also includes the construction of a pool at the side yard. As was noted earlier, it's almost a double lot, so there's space in the side yard, and this is a rendering shown. Also proposed are fences of vinyl material. The front fence includes a pergola, and then the rear and interior side yards are proposed to be the vinyl privacy fence as shown. So overall, staff finds the proposal to be appropriate to the design guidelines and to the city code. Since this is an application both for the certificate of appropriateness, because it's in a local historic district, and the ad valorem, 2 votes will be needed. Staff is approving or recommending approval of both. That includes my comments. The owners and applicant are here as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Mr. and Mrs. Hussey, sorry. People destroy mine all the time, so I always feel bad. Okay. You have 10 minutes to present. If you would just give us your full name, your address, and whether you've been sworn in or not. And thanks for being patient.
Sure, absolutely. Michael Hussey, 217 10th Avenue Northeast, and I was sworn in. My wife and I are we're recent to St. Petersburg. We resided in Newport, Rhode Island. Just came here 2.5 months ago.
Welcome.
Thank you. And we purchased this house because we're very, very excited about the neighborhood. We spent some time there. We've already made several friends in the neighborhood, and we see a lot of potential with the house. Unfortunately, there's a lot more issues than we anticipated. But we are willing to address those issues, and we really want to become a part of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to say quickly that we want to get this house to a point where it fits into the neighborhood, meets all the historical expectations, and I think we have a great contractor here to help us do that. On the windows and the doors, we had some original ideas, kind of East Coast ideas, which was pretty common to Newport, which was all glass doors with no mullions. In talking with Laura, she said that was inconsistent with what your folks are looking for, and she wants to see the raised mullions, and so clearly we're going to do that. The doors are also going to be just glass, and now we've looked at your requirements for the doors, and so now we have more of a craftsman-like door that fits within the neighborhood. The fence is on the east side of our property. Our abutting neighbor has a fence that's vinyl. It's 6-foot vinyl fence. All I'm really trying to do here is just to remain consistent and have a similar fence on the other side. I'm also talking about putting a picket fence from the edge of our house to that fence on the east side that will address the safety concerns with a pool. Aesthetically, I think it'll fit in. I originally wanted to put a arch, which is pretty common in Newport. In talking with Laura, she thought that might make more sense to do a pergola, which is more consistent with the neighborhood. So we agreed to do that as well. So we will be doing that. And I think also to note is we are fortunate, and it's a double lot. I think it's a double lot. It's a big lot. So, I'm very big on safety. We've had some issues, my wife and I, in the past with safety at our other homes, and I was really pleased that we're going to be able to create parking on the backside of the property, getting cars off the streets. And so I think we can put 3 or 4, I think, at the end of the day. So that, I think, will be something that I'm happy about. And one last point on the windows and doors. It's just, for me, again, safety is a big thing, and I'm worried about intrusion in a home as well as climate. And I'm concerned about hurricanes. And so one of the things that we're doing here, these are custom windows that will really focus on what's required for that home. There'll be hurricane impact windows, there'll be UV protection, and it also addresses my concern over safety for my wife. So that, I would say, are the key points that I wanted to bring up today, and I hope respectfully that you'll support this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no registered opponent?
No.
Okay. Any public hearing on the matter?
No.
Okay. We'll move into cross-examination. Ms. Duvicott, any cross-examination?
None, thank you.
Mr. Hossie? Any cross-examination? Any closing remarks?
None, thank you.
All right. So we'll move into executive session. Questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Rogo.
Question for Ms. Duvicott, please. I was a little surprised to not see a recommendation that the vinyl fencing be a matte finish or some kind of a wood grain look. Is that something that's unique maybe to Kenwood, because that's where that's come up a couple of times as opposed to in this neighborhood?
No, you're correct. I did not include that, but I agree that would be consistent with what has been discussed by this committee in the recent past. I think we've discussed that with the applicant, but
And maybe I'll throw the question.
We're going to get there. I promise.
Yeah.
Hold on just 1 second. We'll get there. Commissioner Rogo.
Well, I was going to, I
tee it
think,
up?
go there.
Go ahead.
So maybe I will put the question in this direction to either the owner or the owner's contractor. Okay.
Yeah. If you could just state your name, your address, and if you've been sworn in.
Andre Klobuchar, 855 37th Avenue North, and yes, I've been sworn in.
Okay, great. So hold on just 1 second. Let him finish the question.
Okay.
I guess
we'll go
the
from
first question is, were you planning to install vinyl fencing that maybe has a matte finish?
Well, it comes with a flat finish. It's not as shiny as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
They've become more flatter, not that real shiny kind of ugly look. It's more simpler, flatter.
That's key for us, and also I guess you want to be somewhat consistent with that neighbor's
right.
vinyl
And
fence
it's
as
a tongue and
well.
groove 6-foot vinyl, and all throughout the neighborhood you see it, and we're just trying to match that on the west side. The back and the front is going to be picket with the pergola entry on that. So,
just wanted to make sure there was an awareness.
I'm aware of that, yes.
Okay.
Can I make one last statement on that?
Please.
I'm retired now for a couple of years, and so one of the things that I still can do is I'm a big landscaper. So I do want to tell you that I've worked on a number of homes, and I will soften those fences with my landscaping around on the picket fence, et cetera. So I think at the end of the day, you will be very pleased with the end result.
Appreciate that consideration. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Winters.
And just to follow up while we're on fences, so what color is the fence going to be?
white.
So I think with Kenwood in particular, where we've been talking about vinyl, we've tried to like not go bright white.
Yes.
So I think that I would like to add that as a condition, maybe that, I mean, I don't know that we can add a color as a condition, but I think we have in the past. I'm trying to remember. I would strongly urge you not to use a bright white in a historic district. It just doesn't seem to fit.
Yes, ma'am. But like with the east elevation, you have a 75-foot run that's pure white, so two different opposite style fences might look even stranger than two solid equal white ones.
You know, I don't know the particular circumstances there, but you may be in a historic district where the issue hasn't come up and that neighbor with the bright white fence hasn't, or it was something that was done before it was a historic district, because it's a fairly new historic district, I believe.
Right, so what would...
You know, I think it's... I would just recommend not going with a bright white. It's really harsh in a historic district. It just doesn't... Yeah, so that's just going to be a comment, I guess, unless we want to include it in a motion. But I do have some other questions, and one of them is around not using like materials. So the house has got wood windows now, correct? But they're deteriorated, so they're going to be replaced with vinyl windows. Typically, it's true, the Secretary of Interior Standards recommends replacing like with like. So, and I live in a listed property in your same district, in your neighborhood. It's possible to go with wood that's got a vinyl cladding, so you've got some durability on the outside, and you've got wood on the inside. Are these like all vinyl windows, or?
These are vinyl, just inset windows, the casement windows that will fit right in with the minimal exposure of vinyl. The wood option, the cost is just too much, because we have 42 windows in this building.
Okay, so that's the sole concern. I was kind of surprised.
It's also cost, and it's just simple, because with the wood, I think we'd have to remove more of the casing and the original framing of the wood, of the structure itself.
Okay. Okay. So I would, I mean, first I just want to say this is an incredible project. It's very ambitious, and I'm very pleased to see this work being done. I just see the need to kind of add some conditions to this, probably in addition to what the staff have already listed. And I think that the owner already mentioned the dimensional buttons, acknowledging that needed to be done. That's actually not in the conditions that staff have recommended, so I think we need to add that language around having the three-dimensional buttons on the windows, so that you've got that look to it.
They are exposed. So it means they're on the outside. They're not just a simple line. They are exposed already. So Laura mentioned that to us, that as more
Okay.
It's required. Or
Okay, yeah, so I
We'll
just
do
think
that.
it needs to be in the conditions that we've got those.
That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we need to add the condition that Commissioner Rogo mentioned around the matte finish, and I think those are all the questions I've got. I guess I am going to ask staff on the wood versus vinyl. I understand there's an expense issue, but are there any advantages one way or another with durability and lifetime? Because I know sometimes the vinyl windows, they don't have as long of a life as actually restoring a historic window.
Well, there aren't any 100-year-old vinyl windows for us to check with. I know that there are, windows that have been restored that are still continuing to operate after many decades, after 100 years or so. And we do see, a number of applications for replacement windows, usually about 20 years later.
Right.
So they do seem to have a longer lifespan. Also, wood windows can be repaired piece by piece, whereas vinyl windows, usually you have to take the entire unit out.
Right. Right. I think the key is that you can repair wood windows, you can rebuild them and restore them, and that's a big expense up front, but the lifetime of them, because you can continue to repair them, and the vinyl windows, you typically just have to replace them. So it's something that is worth considering if there are any windows that are salvageable. So
So I've worked in this neighborhood about 15 years, and I've been in homes in this neighborhood that have been maintained through their lifetime. This home's been ignored for 40 years.
Right.
And it's in awful shape. So there's no chance of replacing these windows. There's Scotch tape holding pieces together, so.
Right. I understand. It's the point at which you catch it
And
and
then
can restore it.
People that actually do the repair, they're about 9 months out, and the cost is just ridiculous. And they're not impact safety, just single pane. You can just basically just
Right.
hit your knuckle on it and they go through.
Right, right, right.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments? I feel like they addressed the fence issue. I mean, he had said how they're not, I mean, it's not going to be like brilliant white and it's not shiny. I could probably get on board with the addition of that condition, but the addition of a condition on the windows seems like we're forcing them into a decision on whether they want to spend money now or later. I mean, the condition here is historic window trim will be installed or closely replaced. That seems adequate to me, and we let them decide how much money they want to spend and when. But that's just, that's just me.
I'm not suggesting requiring
Okay.
windows. I'm suggesting that we add language around the Muntins, contoured external grids. I think it's the term.
On the door?
On the
window?
On the windows. Well, the doors too, if they've got Muntins.
Okay. I wanted to make sure because we were talking about wood and vinyl windows and it just seemed like, okay.
That was a discussion about.
Got it,
I'm
got
always trying to convert people, I can't, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Winters.
I'll try a motion here.
Okay.
So I'll move approval. Do we need to do these one by one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
that's the best.
I would agree.
I'll move approval of the review of certificate of appropriateness for window replacement, pool and fence construction, and other rehab as a contributing property in local historic district, with conditions identified by staff, plus that the vinyl fencing be a matte finish and contoured external grids in the windows and the doors be added also.
Commissioner, I think you're going to want a
Just a separate motion.
separate motion to amend the conditions.
Separate motion to amend the conditions, and then we'll vote on the whole
Okay.
application as.
Okay, so I'll just put the motion out there.
And then each amendment to the conditions, I think we're going to want to vote on.
Okay.
Right?
That's my preference.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to add 2 amendments, we're going to need to vote on both amendments.
2 additional conditions.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I can't do it. You have to.
So I thought I just said I'm just going to stick with approving the certificate of appropriateness
As written.
as written. Yeah,
So no amendments are requested at this point in time?
that's right.
Okay.
That's what you told me to do.
No, I said, no, you can make amendments, and then we'll come back
Got
and
it.
do the whole thing.
That's what I'll do.
As amended.
That's what I'll do.
So
Yeah,
if you would
yeah.
like to make an amendment to
Right,
the condition
okay.
or pose a new condition, you can make that motion now.
I'll just put that one on the floor, and we need a second, I guess.
Does anybody want to second that motion?
I believe I'm seconding a motion that says we are
Approving the CO.
approving the staff recommendation with the staff conditions and no other conditions.
Correct.
And then I'm supposed to
Is that
say.
you? Is that you?
That's what I will second.
Okay.
Okay.
Any comments or questions on the motion in front of us?
I want to amend that.
Okay.
Is that the time to say this? Okay. I want to amend the staff conditions, the certificate of appropriateness, to add a requirement for contoured external grids in the fixed windows and doors. And I also want to add can I do them in one, or do I have to do two
We're gonna
separate?
do one at a time.
Just one at a time, so right now we have that one.
Got it.
And so that's a motion, and
Got it.
we have a second.
For purposes of discussion, I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogo. Okay, so the motion on the floor is we're amending the condition for windows and doors, correct? All right. Any other comments or questions before we vote?
I think we should.
Should I do the other amendment now?
No. Okay with
No.
No?
I'd like to ask the applicant if they're okay with that.
I'm perfectly happy for you to ask a question.
Are you okay with this amendment?
So the amendment will address the mullions on the doors and the windows.
Yes.
I am. Yes.
Thank you.
All good? Let's vote.
Curtis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whitman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf. Oh, I'm sorry. Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now, Commissioner Winters, if you would, please set forth the motion for your second amended condition.
Okay, my second amended condition is that the vinyl fence be a matte finish.
So moved. We have
I need a second.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
For lack of a second.
there is
Okay.
a second motion done.
No second motion. Okay. So we have one amendment approved. Do we want to, I think we'll probably need a new motion because the conditions have been amended, because the original, there was a motion and seconded.
Been substituted.
Okay, it's been substituted.
Yeah,
Okay.
So now
Thank you.
A new motion,
Would be cleaner.
subject to the conditions as amended.
Correct. Okay. Can't come for me.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Let's vote.
Curtis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whitman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
This is a beautiful home. Thanks for fixing it up. Thanks for becoming a part of this community, and good luck. Thank you for being here.
There's a second part.
Oh, is there tax Valorem?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
That's my fault.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I thought they deferred the tax Valorem. Is that just a different one? I apologize. I took what Ms. Duvacot was saying was that was being deferred. That was my fault. So we're voting on the ad valorem.
Yes.
Okay. Or talking about it, and then we can vote on it. Or if somebody just wants to move. Commissioner Winters.
I want to move approval of Part 1 application for ad valorem tax exemption for the rehab of a contributing property to a local historic district.
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Rogo. Any questions or comments before we vote?
I just have one final comment. Again, I want to thank you for doing the work, but opening up this porch, we haven't really talked about that. That's going to be a really fabulous move and really going to help the character because it really opens it up to the neighborhood and the community. So thank you.
Beautiful. Anything else? Let's vote. 2 screw-ups today by me.
Curtis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whitman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Doing so good.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks for putting up with me. Okay.
And me too.
Let's take a 5-minute recess. 5 minutes.
Good night, my love. Don't say goodbye, my love. I'll sing your favorite lullaby. I have no regrets. Go on and take your rest. As we both let a quiet sigh, we'll sing que sera, sera, and it'll be all right. As your spirit soars high, I'll be bidding you a sweet good night. And darling, I sing your favorite lullaby. Darling, I'll sing your favorite lullaby. And through 1,000 darling, I'll love you more and more. As lonely days fade to midnight, the stars dancing low, mountain trees are a song, crooning to me hymns of time gone by. They sing que sera, sera, and it'll be all right. As I gaze into the night, I'll be bidding you a sweet good night.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. All right, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 5. Ms. Connell, if you would please read this agenda item in.
Agenda item number 5, City File Number 21-902-00048. Review of a certificate of appropriateness for a front porch addition at a contributing property to a local historic district. The owners are Rachel L. Freeman and Joseph R. Rapinski.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have Ms. Duvicott from the city. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello.
Okay, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. COA 21-902-00048 addresses the property at 3200 8th Avenue North. The subject property was constructed in 1949. It's a minimal traditional home, and it is a contributing resource to both the Kenwood National Register Historic District and the Kenwood Section Northeast Kenwood Local Historic District. So the application proposes to extend the right hip of the existing roof forward in order to create a front porch, as shown here at the right. This is a corner property, so that push forward elevation will be visible from the street as well. A detailed breakdown of the evaluation is included in the staff report, but overall, staff finds that 3 of 4 general criteria, 5 of 7 guidelines for alterations, and 9 of 11 criteria for new construction are met. I'll note, as stated in the staff report, that one of the challenges with projects like this is that it does take cues in its form and composition from a predominant style in the subject district, which is the craftsman style, but the subject property itself is minimal traditional, and often the properties like that are a lot simpler and don't feature front porches. So overall, the risk is the creation of conjectural features that mimic the craftsman style and conceal the simpler architectural personality of Kenwood's mid-century infill. So staff recommends conditions mostly related to revising the proposed support system of the porch to more appropriately reference the simple and minimal traditional style of the subject property. That includes my presentation. The property owner is here to speak, and I am available to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Dubicott. Mr. Warpinski. Did I get that one right?
Got it right on.
Listen, I'm like 1 for 4 today. Here we go.
I'm
above the Mendoza line. If you'll state your name, your address, and whether you've been sworn in, please.
Joseph Warpinski. My address is 3200 8th Avenue North, the subject property, and I have been sworn.
Thank you. Welcome. You have 10 minutes, sir.
I've been here once before. I had the pleasure of speaking in front of you. We are trying to do a tremendous amount of work on our property, and mostly because we love the Kenwood neighborhood. My wife was born and raised in St. Petersburg. I've lived all over the Southwest my whole life and got the opportunity to transfer here for work. We've got a brand new baby girl that we intend to raise in this neighborhood. We are happy to be able to enjoy our time outside. I've never lived in a place where people are so friendly, where people are outside so much, and a lot of it involves being on front porches. We walk our dogs every single evening, and every single person you see sitting on their front porch will say hi to you, and you get to know everybody. I've never lived a place like that, and that's one of the things that I've found so remarkable about this Kenwood neighborhood. That is what we want. We want a place where we are able to sit out in front of our front yard and to interact with our community, to continue what we see with these friendly families, and to continue that with our daughter. And that's the whole purpose of this. We've got our prior approval from November was for a renovation for the back of our house, which is in progress right now. And then this was the second part of the construction we wanted to do with this addition for the front porch. We've tried to take every step we could to make sure that it's consistent with the existing property. Our roof line is the same. We've matched the hip. We've tried to match as many of the characteristics of properties in the neighborhood. The porch, the amount that comes out, almost identical to the other porches on our street, intentionally, just so that it's not a giant wraparound porch or something that would be inconsistent with the rest of the properties. We are working hard to make sure that it is consistent with what is seen in the neighborhood. As Ms. Dubicott mentioned, we took the steps to do that. There's a couple issues that are brought up in the staff report, specifically about the guardrail and then also about the pillars, and those are in their conditions. The guardrail it's kind of a non-issue as far as we're concerned. Staff recommends that it be a simple wood or metal or similar material. That's what we intended. The plans that were drawn up say a decorative rail. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something very similar. So there's no issues with that. With the pillars and the stacked stone that we had proposed. It's consistent with a couple other properties that we'd seen. There's one at the corner of 8th Avenue and 29th Street, one at 7th Avenue and 30th Street, and one at 7th Avenue and 32nd Street, which all have very consistent pillars with brick or stacked stones like we want. We understand the simple pillars that the staff is recommending, but we like the option to be able to do either. We'll definitely take it into advisement if that's our only option, but we would like to be able to continue with the stacked stone or something similar, or bricks even, if that's what the CPPC says is our only option. I apologize, I don't have more examples for you or pictures of these other houses. We just got this yesterday afternoon. After 4 o'clock is when we were given the staff report, so I didn't have time to go and find. I didn't know that they were going to recommend the change to the pillars. So I apologize that I don't have some better information on houses and stuff like that match the neighborhood. The last thing is, part of the argument that Ms. Duvicott makes is that our house is a very simple traditional house, and that's part of the reason that the pillars are inconsistent. Our house originally was. Our house, at some obviously it was built in 1949. At some point, the breezeway was enclosed, connecting the garage from the rest of the residence. We don't know exactly when that was done, but that took away that very simple square traditional feel that it has. Additionally, with the renovation that was approved here in November, our house looks even longer. It doesn't have that traditional feel anymore. We've tried to keep our house as consistent as possible as far as roof lines. We've been able to have custom siding created so that we can match all of the siding to keep all of those characteristics the same. But our house isn't that traditional house like it was when it was originally built in 1949. So the reason I bring that up is the argument that the pillars aren't necessarily consistent with the neighborhood. Because of that, I would argue that our house isn't really that traditional house as much anymore. Yes, it looks extremely simple from the front, but because we're on a corner lot and you see profile on both streets, you'll see that it's not the extremely simple traditional style that it originally was. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And if you got any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warpinski. Okay, do we have, there's no registered opponent?
No.
Any public hearing? No. Okay. We'll move into cross-examination. Ms. Duvicott?
None, thank you.
Mr. Warpinski?
None.
Any closing remarks, Ms. Duvicott?
No, thank you.
Mr. Warpinski?
Keep it simple.
I'm playing ping pong. Okay, we will move into executive session. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Could the staff comment on the pillars and the composition? Apparently, the applicant has got some concerns about the recommendation there.
Yes, my conditions of approval were intended. I mean, I'm comfortable working it out administratively and adding it as a condition of approval, but I think that the this is a minimal traditional is really a kind of a transitional style. I think that the simplicity of the ornamentation that really defines this property, and historically it had a simple form already. I think that those are elements that are worth being preserved quite carefully. I think that they're as significant as ornamentation on a craftsman house.
Thank you.
Ms. Duvicott, before I ask the applicant, would the city be okay with having the railings and porch columns just subject to administrative approval rather than having the 3 or 4 items in here specifically that they have to do and administrative approval? I think that's what you're talking about, like just working it out at the staff level rather than listing like straight square column design, straight metal or wood railings. I feel like they've got to stay within that box and then work it out rather than just work it out with staff. Am I explaining that okay?
I understand. I mean, that will be my recommendation. is to provide something that's as simple as possible.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Winters.
I just have a question. It may have come up when I was lacking sound, but so I understand that the porch is 6 inches below the house with steps up into the house. And I was a little puzzled by that. And I don't know if the owner wants to respond, or maybe I'm misinterpreting something.
I'm trying to pull it up real fast. My understanding is it's just there might be one step down from the house, and then. But let me pull up the plans real fast. I apologize.
Yeah, it's just creating a different plane from the plane of the house, and maybe because I don't know what the foundation looks like, maybe it's not an issue, but I was kind of curious about why it's set down.
It's 6 inches. Yeah.
I think that would be a typical step down from a house to a porch. There's maybe some unusual ones I've seen where it's level, but generally because of our rain and the kind of conditions we have here, you want to keep blowing water that blows across the porch from trying to get under a front door. So typically there will be some kind of step down.
And with the existing porch that you can slightly see in the picture on the left there is a step down as well, exactly as Commissioner Wolf is describing.
Okay, can we darken the room so that that picture would be a little easier to see? Okay, thanks. Okay, it was just a question. I was kind of puzzled by that.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Rogo.
I don't know if this is something that Ms. Duvacot can answer, or certainly the homeowner could answer. What are the neighbors' homes? Are they craftsman bungalows, or are they more minimal, traditional 1949 era? This was defined as an infill home.
Yes.
Is it surrounded by bungalows, craftsman bungalows?
That area, I understand the vicinity to be a mix of sort of the early post-war infill with the earlier 1920s era properties. I believe that there are some post-war properties on the block.
Your immediate neighbors?
My immediate neighbor is a home that was built much later than most of the homes in the community, and I don't think I would argue that his home meets either of the criteria. It's definitely not a bungalow. There's a few bungalows down at the end of the block, but not immediately, especially not on the corner immediately surrounding our residence.
Thanks. Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? If this gets approved as it's written right now, I mean, you okay with it?
With the staff recommendations?
Yeah. I'm putting pressure on you.
I would very much like for the recommendation for the pillars to be removed. The guardrail's completely fine with that again. It's just we want to be able to have a little bit of leeway, and working out administratively is perfectly fine. If you look at the recommendations 2 and 3, they're kind of mute points because it's permitting. It's a standard language. So it's really, that's the only one. And we can take care of it administratively, and that's really what I'm asking for.
I would be in, I mean, I can't make the motion, but I would be in fit. Yeah. Commissioner Whiteman.
I'd like to make a motion to amend condition 1 of the staff report to remove all wording related to the columns, so we would have the proposed railings will be revised to feature a straight design and straight metal or wood railings subject to the administrative approval.
Clarifying question before we go to a second. Are you going to have a second condition that includes columns, or are you just taking it out?
Taking it out.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any question or comment before we vote? Everybody understand what's going on?
Yeah, so we are talking about deleting the reference to the columns completely.
Correct. All together.
Okay, I just for discussion, I understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm all in for
staff's
discussion.
insistence, given the staff's kind of assertion that it's fairly important, I would like to at least see the columns be subject to some kind of administrative review. That might give them, the applicant, some more leeway to come up with something that adds the decorative element without going to putting a craftsman column on a different style house.
Just 1 second, Commissioner Winters. I promise I will get there. Would you be open to amending your amendment
to
having columns need to be approved at administrative level?
No, because she already said she wasn't flexible on it.
Okay. Commissioner Winters.
My understanding is that staff really looks to the commission and adds conditions for the commission to consider so that we will offer guidance as a commission. So I would actually like to see us stick with the staff recommendations and not toss it back to administrative review. I mean, to me, I think that the commission needs to weigh in on this because staff asked us to.
Here's my take on it. It sounds like Mr. Warpinski is willing to work this out with staff rather than us, or rather than, just blindly asking us to not have it. And I think that's, to me, it seems reasonable. So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I think the question we always have to ask as commissioners is what's the right thing to do for the house, for the neighborhood, for the historic district. So I think it's a matter of looking at the characteristics of the rehab. So.
Comment.
Commissioner Roga. Sorry, Commissioner Michaels. We'll come right back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not a historic preservationist, and I will never contend to be one. But I've felt that the Kenwood section of St. Petersburg is defined by the craftsman bungalow style. And this is an infill home from 1949, and it's called minimal traditional. It has none of the feel of a craftsman bungalow. And I'm not offended by the fact that they're trying to give it some hints. I think mimics the craftsman bungalow style was the term maybe that was used in the staff report. The staff also emphasized that the form and scale is okay. So I support the desire of the owner to try and come up with a front porch that has the same kind of a feel as some of the other significant homes in their neighborhood.
Could I just ask Ms. Duvcott, between what you've recommended as a minimal simple column and the stone-clad columns or stacked stone base on those, if you think there are some ornamentation ideas that would fly better, then I would still be tempted to say allow approval at administrative level. If you think there are some elements that you can work out that might give it some additional element that might be more suitable to the owner. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Sure. Well, I would like to note, though, that even though this is not a craftsman, it is a contributing property to the district, and the minimal traditional style is also a contributing element of that district. So even though it's not high architectural style, I think certainly from a developmental and social perspective, transitional properties have a lot to tell. I'm a fan of transitional architecture. I think it's really interesting. The Secretary of the Interior standards, I think from the foundations of the guidelines that we use, conjectural features are something that we're really discouraged from creating a false sense of history. So I don't want to set a precedent where we're kind of bungalowizing properties that are historically do not have that character. The character that this property has, even though it's been altered a bit, is a character, and it is part of St. Petersburg's history. So I'm definitely willing to continue discussing what is appropriate as far as style with the applicant, but I added language to that condition just because I fear, putting craftsman half columns with a battered top on, post-war homes is not, in my opinion, appropriate.
No, and I do understand that. That's why I was saying it might not be a craftsman element. I was asking if there were any other elements that might fit the minimal traditional, that might give you some leeway to work with the owner to come up with a detail.
Sure. I mean, I think if we can find examples of a home that exhibits a similar style within the district that has the minimal traditional style and a more a sleek column as reference, then I think we can continue that conversation. And
So, Commissioner Whiteman, having heard that about Ms. Duvacat's willingness to work at the administrative level on this, any chance you amend that?
Motion is second on the floor.
Okay.
I'm not changing.
I'm just asking the question.
I personally like the stone. I mean, it adds to the house, I think. It really, and there's other stone in the neighborhood, right, Ms. Duvacat?
not that I'm aware of historically. Stacked flagstone is not something that I'm familiar with in Kenwood.
Right. Isn't there any other?
Not on contributing historic properties that I'm aware of.
Here's my struggle with it. It's all or nothing. I feel like we're in the all or nothing rather than there being a conversation about it. We're going to vote on it. That's just my take on it.
And someone else can make another motion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All good?
So this is just an amendment to the conditions.
This is an amendment conditions to take out the columns and leave the railings. Okay? Let's vote.
Gertis?
No.
Rogo?
Yes?
Whiteman?
Yes.
Winters?
No.
Wolf?
No.
Michaels?
Yes.
Motion fails.
So I would make a motion that we amend the conditions to allow for review of the columns at staff level, to just allow some flexibility for the owner and staff to come up with a detail that will fit the minimal traditional style, but may have a little bit more flexibility than the original staff condition. So my motion is to amend the condition regarding columns to be reviewed at staff level.
I'll second that.
Mr. Warpinski, how do you feel about that one?
I am hesitant because I feel like Ms. Duvacat's position is pretty clear.
Well, here's what I see where you're at, and I am like on the fence on this one, but I feel like this is going to get as close as we can get.
I agree. I think if you even look at the pictures, the minimal traditional, it's not what our house is anymore. So what Commissioner Wolf says Commissioner Rogo said is spot on with what we're trying to do to our house. And obviously I think he understands the sentiment to it. So if that's the only choice, then that's the only choice. I respectfully disagree with it, but I understand it.
I'm hoping you guys, I'm having faith that you two can come to a reasonable decision that everybody walks away happy. Commissioner Rogo.
Does Commissioner Wolf's motion still include the reference to the railings that was in the original staff conditions?
At the moment, it does, because the owner had said he doesn't object to that. I said it was not a major issue one way or the other.
So again, you then think it does not even need to be included?
Well, no, I'm only amending the one condition regarding columns. The rest stays.
I got you. Thank you.
And we have a second from Commissioner Winters, right? Okay. Any other comments, concerns? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Let's vote.
Gertis?
Yes.
Rogo?
Yes?
Whiteman?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Motion
And
passes.
I do understand what you were trying to accomplish. I also understand our concerns about trying to not mix styles, but I think there's probably within minimal traditional some some leeway in terms of things you could do that might not be stacked stone, but might lend you the architectural elements that you're looking for.
Okay, so that was just the amendment to the condition, so we still need a motion to approve the COA.
Okay.
The amended condition.
Move approval of the amended COA.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Wyman, thank you. Any questions or concerns? Let's vote.
Curtis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes.
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Warpinski, congratulations on a brand new baby girl. It's the best thing that maybe has ever happened to me other than marrying my wife. No, wife first, baby second. But thanks.
Official party line.
Hopefully she's not watching this. But thanks for doing what you're doing, and welcome to St. Pete.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a go.
Okay. Moving on to 6. Okay, item number 6. Ms. Connell, please.
Agenda item number 6, city file numbers 21-902-00049 and 21-54-00032. Review of a certificate of appropriateness for the partial conversion of a detached garage to accessory living space at a contributing property to a local historic district. And approval of a 6.2 feet rear yard variance for the conversion of a portion of the detached garage into an accessory living space at the property of 261 29th Avenue North. The owners are William Boyle and Tracy Boyle. The agent is Alexander Smith.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, hi.
Hi.
Okay. Ms. Victram? No. Perkins, sorry. I'm losing my mind, I told you.
It's getting late.
Yeah, that's right. Ms. Perkins, welcome from the city.
Good afternoon. Kelly Perkins, Historic Preservationist. I'll cover the COA, and then Ann Vikstrom will come in and cover the variance.
Thank you, sorry, I had it backwards.
So the subject property is located in the Seminole Park Local Historic District. It is a contributing structure. The house is craftsman in style and was built in 1925 by builder A.A. Stebbins, and it included a detached garage in the rear, which is where most of the project covers. You can see a photograph here. So the project includes the following. It's pretty much converting a portion of the garage into living space. The existing historic wood carriage doors that face the street will remain. The living space will be constructed on the interior of the structure, and the half of the garage will still remain for parking. There'll be new doors and one new window installed on the detached garage, with also a new AC system. And then on the main house, they will have a new front and rear entry door. So here's sort of photographs of some of the doors, and then showing one of the historic windows on the property. The new window on the garage will be 1/1 to match the rest of the windows on the property. Here's a site plan. You can see that the western portion of the garage is the area that will be converted into living space that will be near the main house. And then here's the proposed elevations, showing that one new window to be installed will be located on the interior elevation, and that from the street side, the building will pretty much remain the same. So when reviewing the project, staff found that it met all relevant criteria. And therefore, we are recommending approve of the certificate of appropriateness with the following conditions: that windows and doors shall be recessed in the wall plane to create a 2 to 3 inch reveal to reference historic openings. The window configuration will be 1/1. That replacement doors will feature contoured external muntins. A historic preservation final inspection will be required, and that all other necessary permits shall be obtained. And now Ms. Vikstrom will take over the variance portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Sorry about that. Hi, Ms. Vikstrom.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Ann Vikstrom with Urban Planning and Historic Preservation, presenting a variance to the rear yard setback for 261 29th Street. The applicant is requesting the approval of a 6.2 feet variance to the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3.8 feet for the conversion of a portion of the detached garage into an accessory living space. The property is zoned Neighborhood Traditional NT2 and is located within the Seminole Park Local Historic District and Kenwood District on the National Register of Historic Places. The lot meets the NT2 size and zoning requirements. What is unique about this lot is that it was split in the 1920s and faces Seminole Park, as all the lots do across from the park. Because of this, several lots on the north and south streets facing the lot do not have alley access to the rear. This lot in particular has a shorter depth of 100 feet, while other lots in the plat have a depth of 127 feet. This slide shows the 3.8 feet rear setback for the existing structure. The area shaded in blue is the portion of the garage that is proposed for living space. The proposed living space does not encroach within the area adjacent to the rear yard and should have little to no effect on the adjacent property. Oops. The proposed variance meets 7 of 9 variance criteria as provided in the city code, including criteria 1, the special conditions include that it is a redevelopment and is in a local historic district. These special conditions are not the result of the applicant, and it is the minimum variance necessary as it is within the walls of an existing accessory structure. The variance is consistent to the goals of the comprehensive plan. The variance is not injurious to neighboring properties. It is a contributing structure in a local historic district and was constructed in 1924. It follows the original layout and character of the neighborhood, and this structure is existing. No non-conforming buildings, uses, or structures have been considered in the review of this variance. The Kenwood Neighborhood Association has provided no objection to the request, and we received one email from a neighbor in support of the request, though the neighbor also indicated that they had just moved to a new location in mid-April of this year. And finally, staff finds the reasons set forth in the staff report justify the granting of the rear yard setback, and we recommend approval of the 6.2 feet variance to the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3.8 feet for the conversion of a garage to a living space with a special condition. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Victor. Okay, William and Tracy Boyle, do you want to? Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes, my name is Alexander Smith, architect at 2624 Burlington Avenue North. I'm a neighbor and friend of Tanner and Tracy as well, and helped out with the design.
You've been sworn in?
I have been sworn in.
Thank
yes.
you, Mr. Smith.
So just a little background. The home is an A.A. Stebbins home. He constructed, I think, approximately 7 homes on the park. His daughter actually, doing the research of the home, his daughter was the 3rd owner of this home, so she actually moved in with her husband and lived in the home as well. So we really wanted to keep the historic character of the home, and so that's why the alterations that we're doing really don't affect the exterior of the home. And it was very unique property that it actually had the original wood carriage doors still in existence, and they're operable as well, and we have no intention of changing that. So the structure will actually be built within the structure, and so and then we're adding a window to the structure just to provide more natural light into the bathroom facility. So the homeowners, because of COVID, are now working from home and now expecting a child as well. So they're literally in need of a mother-in-law suite, and that's what we're looking to do with the existing structure. So I'll be here for any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any registered opponent?
No.
Okay, so we'll move into public hearing. Any public comment?
I have no cards.
Okay, thank you. Any cross-examination for Ms. Perkins or Ms. Victram?
We waive, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, any cross-examination? Any closing remarks, city staff?
We waive.
So I don't mess up any names.
We waive.
Mr. Smith. See, that one was easy. Okay, we'll move into executive session. Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Winters.
This is a great little project, and I will move approval.
You want to go one by one?
Of the COA for partial conversion of the detached garage to an accessory living space as at a contributing property in a local historic district.
Thank you, Commissioner Winters.
To the conditions of the staff report.
I'll second.
Second.
I think I have
Commissioner
this.
Wolf, was that Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Rogo, you have a
I have the
comment?
same question I think Commissioner Whiteman just asked, and that is, are the 5 staff conditions to the COA included in this motion? Okay, thank you.
These guys are on it today.
It takes
I should have just taken the day off, but this would have been a lot cleaner.
We wouldn't have had any fun then.
Right, well, I don't know about that. Okay, any questions or comments on the motion in front of us? Okay, let's vote.
Gertis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we still have the variance on the table.
Move approval of the variance in accordance with staff request.
Second?
Commissioner Winters, thank you for the second. Any questions or comments?
Nothing that, negative about this project, other than when I originally saw the variances, I was surprised at the extent. And so just wanted to emphasize that because this is an existing building, we're not changing anything. And so when these come up in the future and somebody wants to know how can we approve such a big variance, we're saying that the
It was
building's
there.
there.
Yeah.
All we're doing is allowing them to do something inside of it to change the use. So with that
Well
said,
said.
I'm in full support.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's vote.
Gertis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Congrats. Welcome to that baby. Mr. Smith, good job. Okay, moving right along. Hey, thanks for making it easy for us. 7, agenda item number 7. Ms. Connell, please.
City file number 21-902-00051. Review of a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a side and rear fence at a contributing property in a local historic district. The owners are Todd Letzring and Lori Letzring.
Okay. Ms. Duvacott, welcome back.
Hello again.
You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. So we have case 21-902-00051, which is 2949 3rd Avenue North, another property on Seminole Park. It is a contributing property to both the Kenwood National Register Historic District and the Seminole Park Local Historic District. It is a craftsman-style home. The proposal is to replace an existing 6-foot privacy fence with a dark-colored vinyl privacy fence. This is a diagram of the proposed location proposed by the property owner. Staff has recommended that the side fence on the west side be moved to be placed behind the front porch instead of in front or adjacent to, which is how it's proposed here. Breakdown of the evaluation is included in the staff report, but staff finds that the proposal meets 3 of 4 relevant criteria, and recommends approval with conditions. Staff does recommend that the fence at the west side be moved, be placed behind the front porch. So that concludes my comments. The subject property owner is here, and I have your photos queued up.
Thank you, Ms. Duvacott.
Thank you.
Lori, Miss Latsring, am I saying that?
Let's ring.
Latsring?
Like, let's ring the bell.
Let's ring. All right, let's do it.
Lori
Welcome.
Letzring, thank you. 2949 3rd Avenue North, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
I did ask for a couple of pictures primarily to show what's already in the neighborhood. There are a lot of vinyl fences within historic Kenwood. We personally don't care for the white fence. We want something that matches our historic neighborhood. My husband was born and raised in Kenwood. We've had this property since 2008, and certainly we want to contribute to a better looking neighborhood. That's even on 5th Avenue. This is within my neighborhood, and again, don't really care for this, so I'll just quickly go through that. This is a fence that is a very sturdy vinyl fence that is wood grain. It's at the end of my block, so it is the furthest east on 3rd Avenue facing the park, and we very much like this style of fence. So that is what we're looking at, is a flat, matte wood grain. We're looking for a darker brown. There's another area, I think that's actually next door to the property you just approved. This is our house from the park looking north, and you really can't even see the current existing fence due to our landscaping. But if you walk into the yard and you take a closer look, you can see the fence is, we feel, appropriately placed back. It is toward the back of the porch. It is not even with the front of the porch. It is more toward the back of the porch. We would like to keep the existing footprint of our fence. That's really all we have. We thank you for your time, and thank you to staff. They've been most helpful working with us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Letzring. No registered opponent?
No.
Any public hearing?
No.
Okay. We'll move into cross-examination. Ms. Duvacott, any cross-examination?
None, thank you.
Any cross-examination, Ms. Letzring?
No, sir.
Any closing remarks, Ms. Duvacott?
None, thank you.
Okay. Any closing remarks?
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll move into executive session. Commissioner Whiteman.
Yes, I would like the city to explain to me why the staff report recommendation says approve with conditions the addition of a front porch. That's on page 3.
I apologize. It's probably because I had just concluded writing.
Okay, can we reword that so we know what we're voting on for sure?
We could vote to amend it quickly, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's
the way to do it?
clearly a scrivener's error from probably copying from a prior report. So making that change on the record, I don't even think it needs a motion.
Okay. So we can just make as long as we're putting it on the record.
That's correct. So,
Ms. Duvacott, do you just want to reword the conditions of approval for us?
it's not even a condition. It's
not?
No, it's part of the recommendation.
Okay. My apologies. I heard you wrong.
No, I'm sorry about that. So the construction of a fence rather than the addition of a porch is the question.
Okay.
Everybody satisfied there on the commission? Okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Commissioner Whiteman.
And was there a question about, and the staff recommending moving the fence, or was that part of a recommendation, or is that just a...
Condition 2.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the conditions of approval, moving it back to behind the porch.
I I would like your staff's, given the picture, from what I can see, it certainly does not seem to be objectionably placed where it is, but not having more extensive knowledge of the site, I don't know if there's a reason why it should be relocated further back.
That's our typical recommendation for placement, is that fences be behind the front porches. I believe that's in the design guidelines. In this case, it is well concealed by landscaping, but we generally don't consider landscaping as it's not as permanent as built structures. So that was the reason for that request.
Commissioner Winters.
Yeah, and we recently required the removal of a fence that was built flush with the facade of the house on 18th Avenue Northeast. So we have recently made that requirement that it be set back.
Yeah, I think that was a wall, not a
for
fence.
width.
The fence was on the side of that house.
Yeah.
You're right, it was a wall facing the
wall.
front. Yeah.
It was a wall. It was a wall rather than a fence. I just
Okay,
wanted to make
yeah,
the distinction.
yeah.
That's all.
Mhm. But it's about that plane, yeah.
Now, and this fence is set back somewhat, just not to the back of the porch. So I don't know if we consider the existing location acceptable or if we want to continue with that condition. And I do understand that the landscaping could go away, and at that point, the fence is still there.
Anybody have a take? Commissioner Roga?
We're approving, if we were to take out the condition, we would be approving the same location where the fence currently rests. And I don't have any qualms. It's already set back, and
I wouldn't mind.
I don't know that I'd be a fan of taking out the condition. I think I'd be a fan of amending it to its current position.
Yes.
I don't know that I would take it out because then you set the precedence of them being able to bring it all the way to the front.
Right, and I would
I accept that.
I might, if I was going to try and do an amendment, I'd say no further forward than its current location in relation to the porch.
Second.
Is that? I just want to make sure that was a motion.
I will be happy to make that an amendment.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the conditions of approval. Commissioner Whiteman, you're seconding.
Yes.
Any questions or comments before we vote on this amendment? Yes, Commissioner Winters.
I just have one question. I was really pleased to see the textured vinyl, matte wood grain, and a darker color. And it goes back to an earlier item we had. Can the commission actually place requirements on color or tonal range or anything? I know we can't talk about paint colors on buildings, but the fences are pretty prominent. Is that something we can actually regulate? Color of fence? I'm thinking not, but.
Not typically. We try to avoid getting into the regulation.
Got
of
it.
color.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get that clear in my head.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any other questions, comments?
Condition 1, Laura, is that supposed to be a matte textured or wood grain finish?
The proposal I consider to be matte textured and feature a wood grain.
I'm sorry?
The proposal as it is, I don't take issue with the proposed material. It is consistent with what this commission has approved before. It's matte in finish. It has texture and it has a wood grain.
Okay.
To it.
You. Okay.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment to the condition.
Gertis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we've amended the conditions.
Move approval in accordance with the amended condition and the other conditions of the staff report.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Whiteman. Commissioner Wolf. Any questions, comments? Okay, let's vote.
Gertis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lessering.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you for your patience.
All good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, item number 8. Ms. Connell, if you would, please.
3-3.
Agenda item number 8, City File 21-904-0003 and 21-54-00-0033. A review of a Part 1 application for an ad valorem tax exemption for rehabilitation at a contributing property to a historic district, and approval of 3 variances for the conversion of an existing detached garage to accessory living space and the addition of a storage area at the property of 2500 Burlington Ave North. First, a 2-foot variance to the interior side yard setback from 5.3 feet to 3.3 feet. Second, a 6.9 feet variance to the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3.1 feet. And third, a variance to reduce the required parking from 2 spaces to 1 space. The owner is Zachary Curry. The agent is Alexander Smith.
Okay. We got Ms. Duvicott walking all over the place today. Ms. Duvicott. Oh, they stole it from you. Ms. Duvicott, welcome back.
Thank you.
We have 10 minutes.
Thank you. I'll begin with the presentation for AVT 21-904-00003, and then Ann Vikstrom will discuss the variance. The subject property is a contributing property to the Southwest Central Kenwood Local Historic District and the Kenwood National Register District. It is also a craftsman-style bungalow. And the ad valorem tax exemption aspect of the project proposes the conversion of the historic garage as well as the removal of some non-historic siding and restoration of the historic siding and ornamentation, and then the addition of some storage in front of the garage to replicate the appearance of historic garage doors. So this is the proposed garage after conversion. So to summarize, the ad valorem was reviewed using the Certificate of Appropriateness criteria and was found to meet 4 of 4 relevant criteria of the general and 5 of 5 for alterations. So staff does recommend approval of the ad valorem tax exemption with fairly typical conditions of approval that the windows and doors be appropriately placed to match historic, which the applicant has agreed to and in the application. And that concludes my presentation. Ms. Vikstrom will discuss the proposed variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, Ms. Vikstrom.
Thank you. Always good to be back. Ann Vikstrom with Urban Planning and Historic Preservation. I guess I need this little clicker. I'm presenting 3 variances for the property located at 2500 Burlington Avenue North. The property is located at the southwest corner of Burlington Avenue North and 25th Street North. The request is for the approval of 3 variances for the conversion of an existing detached garage to accessory living space and the addition of a storage area, including a 2-foot variance to the interior side yard setback from 5.3 feet to 3.3 feet, a 6.9-foot variance to the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3.1 feet, and a variance to reduce the required parking from 2 spaces to 1 space. The rear yard setback variance has a magnitude of 69%, and the side yard setback has a magnitude of 38%. Finally, the parking requirement is 50% of the requirement, or the parking request is 50% of the requirement. The property is zone neighborhood traditional NT2 and is located within the Kenwood National Register of Historic Places. The lot is a substandard size with 4,913 square feet which is 15% less than the standard lot size of 5,800 square feet. This slide shows the proposed side and rear yard setbacks and shows where the parking is proposed or exists today. In front of the garage is the proposed storage area, and the blue shaded area indicates where the remaining parking space will be in the driveway. Because the owner has, I'm going to say, a very large truck at like 17.5 feet in length. If a parking space were placed to the side, as shown by the red dashed line, the vehicle in the space would have to be located all the way up against the garage to allow a second car to maneuver behind it into the second space. And so that would thereby render the space very difficult to maneuver. The proposed variance meets 7 of the 9 variance criteria in the city code, including it is a redevelopment, it is a historic, or within the Kenwood district in the National Register of Historic Places, and it is a substandard lot size. The special conditions are not the result of the applicant. Criteria 5 addresses the minimum variance. The side and rear setbacks are minimal and reflect the current location of the existing accessory structure. Concerning the loss of one parking space, the bus rapid transit, the BRT service in the Central Avenue corridor is under construction, and public transportation will be available to residents in this area. With public transportation, it is expected that there will be a reduction of vehicles in the neighborhoods adjacent to the transit service. The variance is consistent to the goals of the comprehensive plan. This variance is not injurious to the neighboring properties. Reasons to grant the variance include the existing structures were constructed in 1925 with the existing setbacks. It follows the character of the neighborhood, and the bus rapid transit is expected to lessen the dependency on single-use vehicle trips and reduce the need for parking in the neighborhood. No non-conforming buildings, uses, or structures have been considered in the review of this variance. The Kenwood Neighborhood Association has no objection to the variance request. No other public comments have been received. And finally, staff finds the reasons set forth in the staff report justify the granting of the variances. Staff recommends approval of the following 3 variances for the conversion of the existing detached garage to accessory living space and the addition of a storage area with conditions. And the 3 variances are a 2-foot variance to the interior side yard setback from 5.3 feet to 3.3 feet, a 6.9 feet variance to the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 3.1 feet, and a variance to reduce the required parking from 2 spaces to 1 space. I am here to answer any questions, if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Vikstrom. Okay, on the wrong page. Mr. Smith, are you here on behalf of the owner?
I am.
Okay, welcome back.
Okay. Alexander Smith, architect, 2624 Burlington Avenue North, and I've been sworn in. Another accessory living space out of a garage conversion. A little background, this homeowner purchased the house last year. Due to previous owners as well, the garage doors had always been removed. There is no, the garage is not functioning as a garage, It's the original 1925 garage that was built on site. The homeowner is looking to remove all the aluminum siding that was attached, restore the existing wood round siding, as well as have additional wood milled to match the siding for the storage area, and then have replica wood storage doors created to give the presence of the original carriage doors that would have been there. And so it's a very unique and small corner lot without alley access. As Ms. Vikstrom pointed out, it's a very substandard lot. He's trying to preserve as much of what's already existing there and just change the use of the interior of the garage due to COVID as well, working from home. It's very interesting days we live in. And so he's not looking to demolish the building. He's hoping to keep the existing structure and just change the use within it. The staff was very helpful with the communication on this project. We've been working on it for a number of months, and Ms. Vikstrom was nice enough to even meet us out at the site to really get a sense of feeling of how small the lot is, and to really, we're just trying to keep what he was given and do it right and come through you guys to get approval. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. There's no registered opponent?
No.
Any public comments?
No cards.
Okay. Any cross-examination, Ms. Duvicott or Ms. Vikstrom?
We waive, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith? Any closing comments?
We'll waive, thank you.
Mr. Smith? Okay. Moving right along into executive session. Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Rogo.
A motion to approve Part 1 application for an ad valorem tax exemption for rehabilitation at a contributing property to a historic district.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Rogo, Commissioner Whiteman. Any question or comment before we vote? Okay, let's vote.
Curtis.
Yes.
Rogo.
Yes?
Whiteman.
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. First one down. Any questions about the variances? Commissioner Rogo.
As Mr. Wolf mentioned a couple of items ago, the accessory structure is not moving. It already has the existing setbacks, and I guess that was also Mr. Smith's design, so we appreciate that very much. We just want to make sure that everyone understands why, if we do indeed approve these variances, that we're approving them because there really is no change to the setbacks that currently exist, only a change in the use of the structure. And with that said, I will move the approval of the first variance. We go one at a time?
Do the variances together.
Okay. I will move approval of all three variances for the conversion of an existing detached garage to accessory living space and the addition of a storage area at the property of 2500 Burlington Avenue North.
This is the staff report.
You want to add conditions?
Subject to conditions?
Subject to conditions.
Subject to conditions in the staff report. Are there conditions in the staff report?
There are in the variances.
There's a little boilerplate in there.
Yeah.
That these variances don't imply the granting of other variances, that kind of stuff. But
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whiteman. Second. Okay. Any comments or questions? Commissioner Winters.
I'm supportive of reducing the required parking. And is the city not talking about reducing parking requirements? Maybe it's just commercial, but just acknowledging that we want to encourage people to use public transportation and bikes and all that.
We have completed a number of text amendments, in part that reduce the minimum number of parking required. And the goal there was, of course, to help with the housing affordability issue.
Right.
We've had a couple projects that have now come through the site plan review process and are proposing to actually build without any parking. So we're all curious to see how those projects turn out, and are there lessons learned from that experience. But we have made some recent changes. We've talked about others. For example, exempting the first certain square feet of building square footage in designated local landmarks to try to encourage adaptive reuse of the older buildings on the existing footprint in smaller sites. So we have some things that have been approved, other things that we're considering.
So have you made any changes in the NT neighborhoods, the NT districts yet, or is that still in the works?
The parking changes that were made were specific to multifamily.
Got it.
So if there was a situation where multifamily units were provided in a neighborhood traditional zoning category, then they could potentially benefit from the reduction, but I don't believe that would normally be the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions or any other questions or comments? Okay, let's vote.
Curtis?
Yes.
Rogo?
Yes?
Whitman?
Yes.
Winters?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Smith, thank you for your patience. Thanks for doing good work. Thanks for doing good work, man. Okay, any updates or announcements?
I have two on planning cases.
Okay.
So the first one is, you'll recall that this commission took up application number FLUM 60, which was the former Raytheon property at Tyrone Mall. That application has since been withdrawn by the applicant, so that is no longer working through the process.
Was that the sports one?
Yep.
It was, yes.
They withdrew that, huh?
They did. It went up to the Ford Pinellas board. The Ford Pinellas board voted to recommend against the proposal. And in between the Ford Pinellas board and the hearing by the Countywide Planning Authority, it was withdrawn.
Okay.
Heather Judd and myself this morning were up at the county because the Countywide Planning Authority was taking up another application, FLUM 58, which was Grace Connection Church. So you'll recall that was a map amendment on the west side and was challenged through the state's Division of Administrative Hearings. That one was approved today by the Countywide Planning Authority, and that was the final step in the normal application process. So that will start a clock on an appeal window, but that is the status of that application as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kilborn.
Any updates on Driftwood or Mirror Lake historic districts?
Mirror Lake, we are trying to schedule an information meeting at the end of the month so that we could get that back in front of City Council for more direction in mid-July. And Driftwood, we've had some discussion internally about how to set that up and what the scheduling might be, but we haven't made any substantial progress on Driftwood yet.
Thank you.
Isn't there a workshop tomorrow night, follow up on the 2050
Yes.
vision?
Yes. Tomorrow night, St. Pete 2050, there is our second workshop on comprehensive plan elements. So you'll recall that we are now transitioning into the process of amending comprehensive plan elements. And so we are going through several workshops to solicit public feedback on those specific changes and what that might look like. So the second one is tomorrow, and stpete2050.com is where you can go to get additional information and also links into those workshop sessions.
Are there actually draft changes to the comprehensive plan at this point?
No, at the first presentation, there was, we worked on several elements at the first workshop, and what we had done in the presentation was we identified kind of the procedures and where we are in the process, and we also provided some concepts of what a change might look like to help the conversation get started with the public. But we do not have a complete set of drafts that we're bringing out for review. That's in part the purpose of the workshop sessions now, is to get the detailed feedback. What did we see in the St. Pete 2050, and how does that now translate into actual text in the comp plan?
Thank you.
Anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a second. Mr. Commissioner Wolf, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Have a great day.